which is the worst hive city to live in. So you are teleported into this hive city. How bad do you have it? Um,
Everyone's not having a great
yeah,
time.
you're not having a great time. There are some worlds that are going to be better than the other ones, but you're going to suffer all around. Uh,
Some
so,
high, some low.
so we have Roderick, Luna, Sanity, and a Fingar.
Hiya.
Hello, hello, everybody. Hope you're all having a
Hi.
wonderful, absolutely amazing day.
All right, so we're back with the Crankshaft Battle versus. So let's go ahead and kind of get into it. So we kind of split it off a little bit of who's kind of defending what and what they're doing, and we're doing research too. So I'm going to be representing Coruscant in Star Wars. That is the Hive planet. It's an entire planet made of a city. There are was I think 5,000 layers to this city. Um, the lower you go, the worse you have it. And we'll get into the more nitty gritty details to that one. We'll go Roderick, Luna, and then the rest of them. So, Roderick, who are you defending, and what are you bringing in?
Uh, it's gonna be a trip here. Um, give me like 30 seconds if you don't mind.
Nah, go for it. While you wait, I'll talk a little bit about Coruscant here, and then we'll move on to somebody. Then we'll go back to you. Um, Reason why I picked Coruscant in the Star Wars universe is it's a hive planet. It's literally an entire planet made of a city. There's really nothing left of this city that really doesn't have a particular point um, left. So that's one of the big reasons why I decided to bring that one into it. Because again, if you're going to take a hive, then that's where you want to start at.
Okay, cool. I had to save something, so that's why.
Oh yeah, man.
Um, so the reason I chose Hive Cities from 40K is uh, realistically, it's hard to sort of point to one singular one besides Necromunda. But if we're talking about Hive Cities in general, um, in the 40K universe, around the entire Imperium, 85% of all planets have at least one Hive City cluster. Um, each of these Hive Cities consist of different layers. So, like Hive Cities in 40K are a city built upon a city, built upon a city, built upon a city. And at the very peak, which is called the Spire, then you have the lower city, then you have the Underhive. Um, and I can start going into a little more detail if you want.
Oh, we'll come back to we'll go into the detail here in a
Okay.
bit and just
Okay.
introduce everybody.
Well, I mean, realistically, yeah, it's mainly you have a mix of things where like it's basically a mix of manufacturums, but like there's usually billions of people that live within each city. At usually minimum 50 billion people living in a small city.
All right,
That's a lot of people. Oh my god.
all right. So we'll go ahead and move over to Luna. What are you bringing in, and who are you defending? And I will say
So,
you could pick if you could pick other things as well, so you don't have to just bring in something new.
I'm also going to be helping Fanger out with the
I think
what
I'm
he's
going to
going to
help
talk
you with
about.
Star Wars, if not just because of the fact that while I do have a lot of reservations about like size of Warhammer and everything else, and the different ways that could be definitely disastrous to living in one of their cities, the main thing for them is, or the main thing for Star Wars is, I know it a hell of a lot better than I know anything else.
All right.
I am a huge Star Wars nerd. I don't think that's in question. So I'm gonna go ahead and help you defend Star Wars and point out some other stuff that we may miss when it comes to Warhammer and everything else.
All right. So we got Star Wars Warhammer. So we got two Star Wars, two Warhammer, and one Dread so far. One
Yeah.
Judge Dread.
I'm going to be
Roger's
helping out
helping
with
me
the
with
dread.
Dread.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, one Dread so
Alright,
far.
he
But
knows
so
a lot
far,
better.
we haven't got to the Sanity of Ingar yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Sandy just brought a big ass Nerf gun.
Yeah, Sanity just brought a big ass Nerf gun, so you know. All right, Sanity, who you defending, or are you just listening?
Yeah, it sounds like he's just
I
listening.
was just listening. All right, Fingar, who you defending, and all that fun.
All right, so I am defending Mega City 1 from the Judge Dredd universe because it's still on. It's okay. So it's a little more homely than the other cities that you guys are talking about. You know, it's the entire East Coast of America, or what's left of the entire East Coast of America, basically. Because everywhere else is surrounded by like nuclear wastelands. But it's a little more humble. Obviously, it's not an entire planet. Because if you go any more west, you're going to go into what's called the cursed Earth, which is where nuclear fallout is. And if you go too far north or too far south, you'll go into the wastelands, which I suppose are probably not going to be inhabitable. But from the looks of it, you know, it's still like covering most of the East Coast of the U.S. for just the one city, and you'll have multiple different districts, like or multiple different sectors. Let me put it that way. And each sector will have like a block within it, and the average block size is about like 200 blocks per sector, and it's estimated to have about 16 billion people within that one city.
All right.
So it's a little more humble size by comparison.
I feel like yours is more kind of realistic in terms of modern day. To be
Yeah.
perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
I will give the kind of not a caveat, but I'll give you kind of that one out of
Well,
all
that's why
three of them.
I was gonna like maybe to make a little more fair playing ground for him. What I was talking to him about is realistically maybe we block certain floors on Coruscant, and then I also block the hive bottom.
Yeah, because like the worst case for you guys is like, you
Just
know,
immediate death.
yeah,
mutants
worst
and
case is immediate death.
basically demons.
Yeah, and whereas like worst case for Mega City 1, if you're living in like a really bad area, you might get attacked by mutants.
Oh yeah, let's have fun.
Let's assume that you do average then. Like
Yeah.
you're the
So
average.
what I was gonna do is.
Oh no, can I give an idea?
Sure.
All right, so what if we do Warhammer versus Star Wars, which is always the funniest nerd debate ever, and then we do Dread versus Cyberpunk.
Well,
Oh, no.
hold on. Here's
right.
how I was going to balance it. And so I was going to have a you versus me on the very bottoms,
Okay.
and then as we go up to like maybe like the under high for me or habitable floors for you, because technically the under hive is habitable. It's not great. You're not having a fun time. And then maybe some of the upper floors are habitable for Star Wars. You're still not having a fun time, but in that certain circumstance,
Oh yeah, at that point, Judge Dredd sounds like shit.
I mean, realistically, once we get to the habitable areas, then we can actually compare it to the Judge Dredd city.
Okay.
Like realistically, it's more of a fair fight, quote unquote, at that point.
All right.
And so I was thinking like you and I could compare like the worst of the worst, and
Yeah.
then when we go up, then we can pull him in and be like, and this is the comparison
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
here.
'cause if we bring in Cyberpunk's just gonna win.
Well, no, I was actually gonna say I'll be honest with you. Like Cyberpunk does, I honestly don't think Cyberpunk. Be my personal aspect. From what I remember about Judge Dredd is far worse than Cyberpunk.
I would rather live in just
Yeah,
Cyberpunk world.
I'd rather take the risk of, you know, getting attacked by a cyber psycho than living in Mega City 1.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. Like so
don't
if
know,
we're
man.
if we're going with how bad and what's the worst one between Dread and Cyberpunk, I think Dread is far worse than Cyberpunk. Yes, I know Cyberpunk has like its own thing of like chop shops and all this other stuff, and
But you can eck out like an average everyday
no, no,
corporate living.
you can literally leave the city and go to bumfuck middle of nowhere and be perfectly fine. I mean, the worst you're gonna have every now and then is. I don't think there's really anything out there other than that's bad. You might have the small
But
town
then I'm going
vibe.
to the moon.
Well, nomads.
Yeah, you got the nomads, but I think most of them are. If you
Yeah,
join them, you're particularly
in a
fine.
comparison to, yes, the toxic wasteland of death
Yeah,
in the Judge Dredd outskirts.
There's actually a place in Judge Dredd called Sauron's Valley.
I
It is,
mean,
that's my
fucking
point.
terrible.
Like I said, I think I personally think Dread is far worse than Cyberpunk. Like Cyberpunk's bad. Don't get me wrong. If you're not rich or medium well off, you're not going to have fun. But it's still better than Dread.
Oh yeah, no. When we get
Dealing
into it,
with mutants?
you'll learn some stuff about Judge Dredd that will make you realize there are parts of Coruscant that are better.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, but technically speaking, especially for Cyberpunk and like the main city that you're in and all that, it's not even the fact that if you're rich, you're well off in anything. You'll be well off in any sort of like bracket that you're in, money wise and all that. As long as you just don't piss off the corpos, you're perfectly fine.
Oh,
yeah, you'll have your random gangs here and there, gang wars and all that stuff, but you also have the police force that will enforce anything going on. So as long as you don't piss them and the corpos off, you're pretty much fine.
Yeah, their police is just their police is quite literally a large ass fucking gang that's like, we don't want to do our job. You make us do our job. Everyone's going to suffer in this vicinity of our place.
Like even the medics have guns.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at the Judge Dredd universe, it's like realistically you have, your judge and executioner walking the streets. Oh, you fucking broke a small fucking law. 30 years in fucking, indentured servitude. Oh, you crossed the road. You're going to be in jail for like 8 years because you didn't cross the crosswalk.
So that legitimately makes me think of like, what was it, Iron Batman or Iron Lord Batman with Batman? Like, Iron Lord, how's Gotham so nice? Iron Lord Batman's like, well, if we want the criminals to follow the big rules and we got to enforce the small rules, and it's like, yes, if you jaywalk, you go to jail.
And depending on the judge,
You might
okay,
just get shot.
okay, I have to go to this crime scene to investigate. I don't have time to deal with your bullshit. I'm just going to execute you because I don't have the time to even judge you. Like they have the ability to just control delete you, like for like the pettiest of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if you don't mind, I can start talking about
Give me 1 second. I had to write this note down. So if you get a judge that's going through a divorce, they're likely to kill you. Got it.
well, okay.
Can I
well-
ask one question?
Well, the judges
the judges are clones, so they don't actually have like a
they don't
technically
have a life
happy.
outside of being judges.
It's literally
What's your question, Sanity?
It's going back a little bit to the cyberpunk thing, but it's just which technically would be worse to go up against if you were going to include cyberpunk too? Would it be the judges
the judges.
or Max Tech?
The judges, hands down. Like it's actually terrible.
Yeah, but the Max Techs are
they've
deployed
added so
essentially
many-
as a psycho.
they've added
like
they've added
suppressing
so
unit.
many laws in the Judge Dredd universe. Like there's so many like stupid laws that like you're bound to break one by accident. Like
Well, no, just even imagine if like
it's just win.
imagine if like all the stupid laws from every state were enforceable, like no carrying an ice cream in your pocket on Sundays and wherever, or no singing off key ever in one other state.
Like being homeless in the Judge Dredd universe is a crime. By the way,
So it's essentially
Fengar,
on
if you want
the-
to talk about how many people are unemployed,
Oh yes. So Mega City 1 has an unemployment rate of 90%. And it's a communist state. So the 10% who are working are paying for everyone too.
Okay, so it's essentially going on like the not necessarily the effectiveness, but like sort of the freedoms that the judges have of here are all the laws, even down to the minuscule ones. You break any of those, we can just kill you type deal. Because
They
that's
could
the
kill
only
you, yes.
Yeah, they could.
well, that's just the only reason I brought that up. Because if y'all talking about cyberpunk, Max Tech is essentially there to suppress cyber psychos whenever
Oh,
they
yeah.
break out.
Oh no,
no,
well,
that's
So that's
the
what it's
thing,
like.
though,
So it's
cyber-
like
Oh yeah, no, the judges will like okay, by comparison, like the judges will go, like for instance in the movie, take care of a gang and they'll just pretty much like in the movie kill on sight if they have to. Like if they can't detain you, they will just kill you on sight.
They'd rather detain just for the free labor that they would provide. But if they're getting shot at, it's automatic change to like death penalty.
Lethal force.
well, again, the thing
Well,
is that it's going by like the average citizen. So like, how is the average
Yeah.
citizens like happy? Are they generally more happy in Cyberpunk versus
Average
Judge
citizen
Dredd?
is most likely either having to work for a gang or having to work to pay off, the 90% of the unemployed.
well, that's why I just wanted to clear up too, because like even looking more into it, Night City Police Department policy is just if you don't want to get hurt, don't riot. They also have like a mini infomercial series that will play on the TVs that are essentially saying, "All right, here's what you do to interact with the cops. No sudden movements whenever they show up. If you're in a store that's getting robbed, don't try to go up and try to explain it because then they will just put you down. Even the store security system will just shoot you if you move at that point because you must be part of the robbers type
Oh
thing."
yeah, no. If you were to do that in the Judge Dredd universe too, you could be considered impeding their investigation. They can put you in prison or shoot you.
Oh yeah. All right, let's get into the let's.
I can talk a little bit
All right.
if you're
Yeah,
okay
yeah,
with
go
it.
for it.
So at one point, Hive cities, which like I was saying earlier, house billions of humans, were largely economically self-sufficient, which produced anything residents needed, and they're currently crucial to producing most of the manufactured goods required for the rest of mankind. They were created in the age of technology as a way to house a large number of humans in an advanced society without damaging the surrounding planetary ecologies and biospheres. So actually, they were not only self-sufficient, but any of the damage that they created, they would fix. So it would be a perfect balance between nature and the cities. However, during the age of strife, a majority of these cities have lost those technologies and behaviors that had them sort of maintain that balance with their environment. Um, because that was lost, the results are millions of metric tons of trash and industrial waste is directly pumped out into the surrounding Earth environment. Um, Given the massive population of most hive worlds, this means that their surfaces are usually reduced to industrial wastelands, covered in toxic deserts where nothing can live or grow, save for the hardy mutants who call this home the Ash Wastes, where pretty much you're not breathing like at all.
I am a mutant who doesn't need to breathe. This is perfect for me.
Pretty much. So
I
some of the
defy
interesting
science.
things, I'll give some pros and cons of different parts. Um, If we're talking about the underhive, I'm not even gonna talk about the hive bottom till we're at that point, manager.
All right.
So I'm not even gonna talk about the worst of the worst yet. If we're just talking about the underhive, air is a precious commodity. In fact, you pay for clean air, where it's chemically filtered and endlessly recycled. You're basically getting a Netflix account to breathe clean air, quote unquote clean, obviously. Um, you eat processed fungi, vat grown meat. Many people who live in the underhive never even have heard of sky or ground and will never know what fresh air is, natural light. It's pretty much these twilight levels. Um, yeah, like they recycle everything: people, air, water, housing. Everything's recycled. If you have no use, you are, you know, turned into pretty much human bread, or you're used in some other form or manner.
Because you will be useful.
Yeah, pretty much.
As Akuma,
Um,
as we said, Akuma, the best outcome is to turn into bread.
you have many different types of zones. Hab zones, manufactories, ruined manufactories. Um, there's so much about the Underhive that I could go on forever. You have merchant guilds, you have gangs. Once you get into the Underhive, there are no guards. The zone there pretty much comes to who can hire mercenaries, and you as like an average citizen, how good are you with a gun or a weapon? That is how you're going to survive. Through strength, luck, and ruthlessness is the only ways you can survive. There's proxy wars that happen between clan houses. There's gang members fighting for survival. You have, let's see here, the Ratskins and Scabies. Ratskins are primitive natives of the Hive Bottom. You have Scabies who are diseased and ghoulish creatures. They're not even mutants, they're just literally ghoulish creatures. You have creatures that are born of the scum and waste, that you can't even call like anything. There's nothing really relevant to like what they can actually be called. It's just these monstrous creatures born of the toxic waste. Um, you have fanatical priests. You have gene stealer cults. You have chaos cults. You have hired guns, and so like there's so many things out there that kill you that as an average person, luck is 90% of the reason you live. Um, yeah, I can sort of stop there and let you sort of feed off of that if you want, manager.
All right. Give me 1 second. Let me look at one thing.
Oh yeah, ooh, fun things I'll just keep talking about. You have specific zones that can happen. You also have different guilds. So, air guilds. So literally guilds of people who will sell air. Um, they just that's their job, is to buy and sell air.
Like,
Thing
you want this can of air?
Yeah, if you breathe tainted air for too long, you'll die. So you literally have to earn your Netflix account effectively. um, you have like different manufactorums that you could work for, which will provide some sort of mercenary protection while you're working. So at least while you're working, you won't die. And you have like water guilds. So air guilds, water guilds, food guilds. Actually, ironically, because air is such a commodity and it's so precious, they have mercenary groups that they hire, which have these sort of monstrous beings, and it's heretical, obviously, but like they're so below that realistically they're sort of unimpeded. But they have these sort of monsters that will freak out and try to search out for air. So if there's air pockets or maybe someone's hoarding air, they will literally raid these people for that air. Like, oh man, my apartment has a bunch of air in here. This is great. I don't have to pay for it. The Air Guild pretty much does what the USA does. Is that air over there that we smell?
Oh no!
All right, I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, go for it.
All right, so I'm going to be representing Coruscant. Now, Coruscant is not the only hive world in the Star
gonna
Wars
be backing up
universe.
Manager on her.
Nar Shaddaa is technically another hive world. There's
Which
quite a
is
few.
a little bit worse.
Yeah, which I think Coruscant, I think Coruscant's
Coruscant
worse.
is absolutely the worst one.
Coruscant is the
But
worst one.
Nar Shaddaa doesn't hide it.
So the difference between Coruscant and Nar Shaddaa, and I guess we could use both of them as somewhat of an example, because again they're both hive wars, they both have the same aspect, is the lower you go the worse it gets. So if you ever watch Star Wars and you ever seen Star Wars, which I mean most people have, or at least heard of, you see flying vehicles moving all around, and that's because majority of everything takes place literally in levels and floors. Pretty much, if you could see sun, you're decently welled off. If you can't see sun, or the less sun you see, the more poor you are, and the less rights or the less safe you are. So that's kind of the big thing, especially for as well as for Nar Shaddaa. I will also say, for a fact, so Coruscant is home to 3 trillion people. And I think it's about the same size as Earth or somewhere around there. So again, that's kind of the whole thing. Earth has 6 billion people. Coruscant has 3 trillion people living on this planet. There's a reason why, if you ever watch the show, again, there's people literally like the streets are like New York City all the time. You have people literally shoulder to shoulder moving back and forth. Crime is extraordinarily high. Again, as you kind of go lower and lower, there's 5,000 levels on Coruscant. I don't know how many levels there are on Nar Shaddaa. And again, as I said, the lower you go, the worse it gets. So, where does all the trash go? Where does all like a lot of the other stuff? Well, and that's a good question. The level between 0 and 1,000 is where all the trash goes. So it's literally just pushed down into this area. And I like to think of it as like we put our trash down there to stabilize the higher levels up. So as we go ahead and progressively get taller, we push our trash down below to stabilize the platforms and all the other stuff, which is what what we did for New York, actually, funny enough, spreading out New York City using trash. It's kind of a funny funny thing that we did. I won't get to the 0 through 1,000 floors as of yet. But I will say 0 through 5 is strictly off limits to everybody. You are not allowed to even go to 0 to 5. And I don't think there's that much information put on through 0 to 5. I do know from 0 to 5 is a lot of like ancient structures, ancient cities. The literally original capital city of Coruscant is there. Think of like modern day Earth. Like Earth now is what 0 through 5 layers are. So instead of tearing down New York, we do like Futurama and do New York and then New York on top of it. That's what Coruscant did. Except for they didn't stop at New York. They just went like New York, New York, New York, and then all the way up to the top. Instead
And
of
Coruscant, you could even find old starships from the times where Coruscant was assaulted, either in the Clone Wars or in the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Which also means there is a whole bunch of starship fuel just having to blast down there.
Which is the lower the levels that you go. I think after about 1500 or so, I think that's what I said. After you get past there, that's when toxic and bad things begin to start happening. But anyways, kind of pulling back up a little. So level 5000, which again is the sun-baked area of the place. I mean, it's pretty normal. It's a normal city. There's nothing bad that's going to happen to you. You're probably going to actually have a good time there. If you remember in Star Wars, I can't remember. I think it's technically 5 or 4 where Anakin and Obi-Wan are sitting at a bar watching the equivalents of robot NFL in the background. That's your normal life. You have bars, you have people having fun, you have dancers in the background, you have football going on. It's a normal everyday life. Like you're going to enjoy that part of your place. Then if you watch, go ahead.
I think you were actually about to say this. Never mind.
Okay. Then I was gonna. So if you go to like Ahsoka, where she got kicked out, and then she started going into the lower levels, this is where it's like. So as you get to the lower levels, you start to see less sunlight. You have skyscrapers all around you. You're literally walking on like platforms. Think of like treehouse platforms. Where you're literally walking around, there's skyscrapers up. You might walk into a hallway, a long hallway with a bunch of doors, a bunch of stuff, shops and everything, and there's no more light for a while until you get to this large,
City, then
until you get to this large drop off or this large giant hole that literally just goes from level 5000 possibly all the way down to 1000. And the reason why they have these randomly is just so they can transport goods. And they usually do that by guards. Your guards kind of help you transport anywhere from zero all the way to 1000 or so. The one game that would have given us a really good aspect and depth into this area was going to be 1313, but Disney canned that one.
Unfortunately.
That's where you would have seen like a lot of the really cool aspects of the underground Coruscant, because that's where the prison is. So they literally just take you as a prisoner and they just shove you into like the floor of 1313, because their mindset is you're stupid if you go lower. You're not going any higher because there's only a few ways to get higher, and if you manage to get higher, congratulations, you're not dead, and you didn't die. So their literally entire prison is just to shove you just like the trash low into the levels, and just you'll either die from gang violence, die of toxic waste, die of mutation, starvation, or you might live. And if you live, you'll come out a better person because you're not going to go back. You're not going to want to go back down there. And so that's kind of Coruscant and a little bit of high level. Like I said, I haven't gotten to the true aspect of it, but I will say from what it looks like and what I've been able to find, between 2,000 and 5,000, it's effectively just think about Earth, not Earth,
Okay,
but think about that.
Yeah, so a comparison to like the upper levels, like what we call the Spire, and 40K. Yeah, the Spire is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
You can see you have the ability to have the sun,
Which is apparently a paid commodity, just like Earth, looks like air.
Right? Actually, if you live in the Spire, one of the coolest things that I figured out about it just recently, there's a lot of free things that you just get because you're just living in the upper half. Power, water, air, sunlight, all of that's free if you're in the Spire. Even getting a job, it's just like, oh, you didn't like that job? No worries, we'll help you find something that fits you. It's just like, okay, what about the work hours? 8-hour work days.
It's like
Okay,
heaven.
that sounds kind of like that's great. Like if you have a job in like the in the underhive, minimally, if you have a 16-hour job, it's just like, wow, you have great conditions right there.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Kuma.
So yeah, like honestly, the spire honestly sounds very similar to like the upper floors in terms of you're having a great time.
Yeah.
It's the palace, you're probably part of the nobles or someone, in the good.
Yeah, but I say between 3,000 to 5,000 is about to where you're having a decent amount of time. You're forgotten about. 5,000 you're okay. 4,000 you're still there. 3,000 is where it starts to get pretty. In my mindset, when I've been able to, if you're starting to get forgotten, that's where you're getting begrudgingly. You're angry. You're born in level 3,000. You're going to die in level 3,000. Is the kind of the aspect of it, because there's just not a lot you could do to kind of move up in your environment.
Is there in the Star Wars universe, or at least and probably in those shitty levels, is there a lot of the Star Wars terms or human terms, factories?
Yeah, no, you have
Probably around
tons of those. So I
probably
didn't.
around those levels, right?
I didn't want to get into that one yet, but I could touch on it a little bit. So yeah, you have factories everywhere on in Coruscant. The lower you go, and what they decided to do is all the toxic waste and the toxic fumes and everything. They just pumped it down to 0 to 1,000, and they said we're just going to shove our problems to the person below us. It's the equivalent of, you ever seen that meme where it's like the CEO has a bird and then shits on the president and the vice president, who then shit on like the executives, who then shit. It's this
Yeah, yeah.
progressive layer of shit. That's Coruscant. Like the whole thought process is well, I'll just tend my problems down because I just don't want to deal with it. So yeah, no, they have factories everywhere, and you would work on your factories. You'd work on starships. You would work on droids. You would work on anything you could do
Mhm.
to make money. You'd have a corner shop that sells food and water and all this other stuff. It's effectively like one massive city, but then you have cities inside the cities. So it's
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah.
districts. So you'd have all that. And again, you would just shove all your toxic waste and all your stuff into the level below you, which usually again accumulates between 0 to 1,000. Is where just everything goes. And you also have abandoned factories that just, as Luna brought in a little bit ago, you have abandoned warships that literally just crashed into it, and instead of taking the warship out, they just built the fuck around it. And built a city on top of the remains of it. So you could literally just, trying to escape your cell, mine into a warship that's just been hiving dormant for, 5,000 years. Because again, that's just, they decided just to build around it instead of just taking it out and scrapping it. Because, why should we spend our money on level 4,000 or 3,000 or 2,000 when we could spend our money on making Coruscant much and much nicer.
Yeah.
And so that's what you have there. So
Mhm.
this is about where I'm comfortable with keeping Judge Dredd in. Again, it's not a
Yeah.
fun. So the thing is, and keep in mind, I'm going high level. It's you don't want to live in below 4,000 is what I'm thinking. Between 1,000 and 3,000, or 1,000 and 4,000 is where you're going to have to watch your back. You're talking about guards are very scarce. You might have battle droids are as your guards, and you're not going to really fall into them. You have gangs everywhere. Bounty
So like
hunters are
mercenaries,
walking around. Pardon?
like mercenaries.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have mercenaries walking around. You'd go pay this gang to kill that person because they wronged you, or your shop just gets shut down because the local hut said no, we're taking your place. Which, by the way, the huts are on Coruscant. They own a great lot of levels in the Coruscant area, because again, there's gangs. That's literally what owns majority of the lower levels are gangs and thugs and mercenaries. Because the police is not going to go down there. I mean, why would they risk their life to go down and help you out at floor 3,000? That's not their job. Their job is to make sure that you don't go up.
Well, in fairness, at that point, you could start going into Judge Dredd, like the apartment complexes that are like the mega complexes that are owned by gangs.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah. No, what I was saying
you'll
is
have
like I don't
citizens
want to
where like
get
you live
any
in a neighborhood.
lower. I don't want to get any lower because if I get any lower, then this is where Coruscant, the beauty of Coruscant's underworld really starts to come out, and
Well, yeah, at
it
that
then
point,
gets bad.
yeah, at that point, it's like going outside of Mega City One
Yeah.
into the nuclear wasteland. You just not gonna live there. Like you can't live.
Oh yeah, and so that's why I think this is about the best. So the equivalent to Judge Dredd in the Coruscant would probably be between 1,000 to well, not 1,000. I'd probably say 1,500 to 4,000 or so, or 3,000. Because again, if I go any lower, then that gets into literally the prison aspect of it, and then obviously the worst part of Coruscant.
Well, there are plenty of prisons within the Mega City One. However, yeah, no, I will say, you know, going up to like 3,000 is probably pretty fair because the problem with Judge Dredd is there is nothing comparable to like say 4,000, 5,000, or like the Spire. There's no good side of Judge Dredd. Like like I explained earlier, like if you work, that's pretty much the best case scenario for an average citizen. There's no real upper echelon. Like, sure, you could maybe, if you're lucky, work in the government, you know, and at that point, you would be kind of in a sense like the ruling class, so to say. But that's not what your average citizen is going to ever experience.
Yeah, you have to be born into that. Like
Yeah,
you have to either you have to know someone that knows someone that to get you in a better part of life, or you have to be born in it. There's unfortunately there's no working your way up in this universe, unlike many other stories. Um,
yeah.
it's just like you were born poor. Get ready to continue being like that.
All right. So what we could do is we could go ahead and do.
Oh no,
Uh,
if you have to exclude the upper places of Warhammer and Star Wars, because the
oh no, no.
Spire
What I
and
said
like
is
the
middle to
5,000.
upper. So like again, well,
Yeah, like in general, the Spire's fantastic.
yeah. Well, no,
Like
I'm taking
realistically,
that out.
I'd recommend anyone like like the Spire and Warhammer is just like realistically, if someone said, "Hey, which universe would you rather be in?" And I would honestly be like the Spire, born as a noble son. I would have a great day.
Mhm.
In fact, like or I could say a hive world where the hive still works as intended. There are very few of those, but there are some hive cities where it's still somehow, even after the Age of Strife, the machinations still work, and so it actually keeps a perfect balance with the environment, and so everything works as it should. And people live fantastic lives on those hive cities.
Mhm.
Not very common, but yeah, in general, I'd say like absolutely like if we had to say like the best places to live between the three at the peak, like between all three of them, you would want to actually live in the Spire. Like they make life for normal people easy there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Whereas like in Judge Dredd, like it's a communist state. If you are a part of the 10% working, you are paying for the 90% unemployed, and the 90% unemployed are unfortunately, you know, most likely being used as like workers for gangs or something along that line because they have to live somewhere. Like as Roger pointed out earlier, you know, you can't be homeless in Mega City 1 because you'll either be in prison, shot, or in a gang.
Well, so as of right now, unless the outcome changes, I have the lower middle to upper places of Warhammer Star Wars is equal to Judge Dredd. At this point, the structure in the structure, Judge is the worst place to live simply because there is no good place to live. The best of the three would be the Spear and Warhammer, middle being Star Wars. And the reason why I give it the
Spire,
Spear of Warhammer, oh Spire,
yeah,
how you spell that?
SPIRE.
SPIRE.
Yeah.
Okay. The Spire, and the only reason I give that is they give free stuff. There's nothing free in Star Wars, so that's
Free-
why it that's why it kind of beats out Warhammer. Free always wins.
It not only is free, but your government is run democratically. That's crazy.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Is like it's Spire would be the best place, and at this point in time, I think the Judge is the worst place to live in these three areas at this specific structure of the Star Wars and
Yeah, because
Warhammer.
yeah, because even still, like best case scenario, as a government worker, it's still not great.
Yeah.
'Cause you're still having to, support a communist state that
And you're
is
even going to work can still be a life or death situation. Being at work is still a life or death situation.
yeah, you're not being protected. Unlike Warhammer, where even in the lower city, you will be protected.
Like,
They just won't kill you because most likely you're their paycheck.
yeah.
Oh, and again, that's why I think I'll give it to this one in this area, where I think Judge is probably worse in these three areas.
Mhm.
Only.
Judge is just- like, there's no happy part of the Judge Dredd universe. It's
Oh, yeah.
like,
And I will say there is probably places in the Star Wars and Coruscant as well as the Warhammer that's probably equal to this, but the only reason I give it to the Judge, and I'll say this for everybody listening, is 90% unemployment. So you have a 9 out of 10 shots of just being unemployed, which means you have nothing to do, which means you're going to be idle, which means you're probably going to be outside, which means you're probably going to die due to something. So your death literally is much higher. And if you don't die, then as they stated, you just become a slave, and then you have to go to work for a while. So it's far worse than the aspect of death.
Yeah, you're either a slave to a gang, slave in prison, or you're shot.
Yeah.
or you're dead.
So it's like, that's point in time it's worse. Whereas like the Star Wars things, I mean, yes, you still have in the middle section of the city to the upper section of the city, you still have all the gangs and you still have all the same aspects, but you don't have a high unemployment rate. Everybody still goes to work.
Oh, and
You still have stuff like that. You have literally gang guards patrolling the area, making sure everything is going, right
and
on
that
their
90
area.
and that 90% unemployment rate was before they let the mutants in Mega City 1.
Huh.
So it's probably a lot higher.
I'd say the one downside about being in the Spire is there is a chance of you being sort of adopted into a chapter, or become a guardsman. And we all know what guardsmen are in the Warhammer universe. Bodies with effective shiny flashlights.
Mhm.
So in that circumstance, yeah, but like realistically, if you never get recruited, you're gonna have a great time.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right.
No, I will say lower. We could compare it to living outside of Mega City 1, but that's just death.
I mean, realistically, the Undercity is pretty much death. So
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
about to
that's
say
what I'm
we're
saying. It's like living. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like we can compare living outside Mega City 1 to like the low hive city, like lower hive cities, and like the lower levels. But at that point, you're outside of the city, and so you're just dead
so
or a mutated mutant.
I mean, I can talk about some of the cool guilds that the Undercity has, if you guys want to hear that for a bit.
sure.
So specifically, if I'm just talking about Necromunda, and most hive cities will have something similar to this. So in the Underhive, you have a bunch of merchant guilds because everything's a commodity. Everything gets bought. Um, so you have electricity. So the Electro Guild. You have the Air Guild, the Iron Guild, the Guild of Coin, the Water Guild, the Corpse Guild. Which makes Akuma's favorite thing, corpse starch. which is one of the most important roles of all the great guilds. Because, as you guys know, millions of people are born and die each day on these kinds of on this planet, Hive City. And without the orderly disposal of corpses, plague and disease run rampant. We can't have that. It would be so much easier if we just turned them into a food source.
Do people eat people in Dread, in the Dread universe?
I believe they do.
How about to say I wouldn't be surprised at this point in time.
I have not, researched too much into Judge Dredd, but yeah, no, I can imagine like the lower city be probably comparable. Like the under hive could be comparable to living in like a gang, like a gang apartment complex,
Mm.
kind of like in the movie.
You have the Slave Guild, which is people who are turned into servitors. So you're the whole thing with servitors is you're mind wiped. You're turned into a robot effectively, and they just sell these servitors for a bunch of reasons, like gambling or gladiatorial combat. Working in the manufactorums. There's they got plenty of uses. Um, because of course they do have gladiatorial combat in the underhive, because why wouldn't you have literally everything that anyone could want? Pit fights, executions. It's fantastic. Um, you also have something similar to what um manager was talking about. So what happens with the toxic waste? Sometimes it gets pushed further down, but in some cases there's enough of a block where it can't get pushed down. So then you get things called sludge seas, which is this vast effluvia of just dumps toxic sludge that sort of fertilize the environment, maybe to make some fungus harvests. Sometimes you can get fungi farmers out there. Um, but it can create mutants. It can create some of the monsters. Um, and these
Emo.
monsters can, you know, eat people. Obviously, people disappear. There's forbidden cities, which are completely different subject that I could talk about for a while. I'd rather not get sidetracked just talking about that. Um, yeah, Gene Stealer cults, chaos cults, become more prevalent in the Underhive. Yeah, one of the big things is like the rule of cool when it comes to the Underhive. So if you're cool and you have the luck, you'll live. But that realistically, luck only happens if you're a main character. Especially when you're dealing with places like Necromunda. Um, let's see here. You have defensives for certain guilds or certain gangs. Will have like servitors. They'll have sentry guns, minefields. Um, they have these like mutant beasts to guard and enhance their defenses for their areas. Um, Very similar to Coruscant, where it's pretty much cities that are built upon cities. Um, but some of the cities are so broken down that it is sort of frowned upon if you live in some of those areas, because, well, not really frowned upon, but you're rolling a dice living in that areas, because just out of nowhere, like the area could collapse on you. You could be just walking to work to a manufactorum, and the area that you're walking through just collapses on you. Um, a lot of the gangs will fight over all the commodities, including bodies. Um, and everything's just a scrounge for survival. The hive bottom, yeah, I'll wait on that.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with the Coruscant lower city. All right, one minute. Luna's getting me some tea. Yeah. All right. You want to take over lower city? Or you want me to go into it and you take over? I'm just here to support you right now. Okay. All right. So the lower city. So the lower city of Coruscant. Where to begin? So this is not 0 through 5. This is literally 5 through. I'd probably say about 2000 or so. Um, this is where the sun doesn't shine. Um, so you don't have cultists per se. I will say there isn't any cultists that I know of. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't cultists on this level. But what
If
you would
not, you should
have,
write it in. You should write it in.
yeah, I'm about to say. I mean, at this, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, you would have various different types of cults. I would say you do have. And this is about the era where you have buildings that just actually you do have cults. No, what am I talking about? Duh, we do have cults. Um, so one of the video games, Star Wars of the Knights Republic, one of the best ones that they've made in my opinion. And on Nar Shaddaa, again, I use Nar Shaddaa because they're kind of the same, and I know they have these things in Coruscant. Funny enough, I can get into that one. Actually, I can get into this one in a second too. But in Nar Shaddaa, you literally tap into a building and you have to go through these ancient machine defenders that have never been seen before, and they're very powerful and they're very very heavily guarded, and they kill. There's literally like there's so many dead bodies um, before you get to this defender because these robots are just slaughtering anything that comes close to it. So you have a bunch of bounty hunters, a bunch of treasures. Everybody's trying to get into this area, but you as the main character finally bust through. Then you find it to where there's a cult worshiping the remnants of the Starforge. And this is the lower city. So this is where the guards don't go. This is where the huts have all the power. The gangsters have all the power. This is where you, as Roderick said, in equivalence to Warhammer, you're fighting for survival. So you have these remnants of the Starforge, and these people are literally worshiping the Starforge because
Being
it's
kept
giving
alive
them
by it.
yeah, giving kept alive by as it's literally taking their dead and giving them food, and it's giving them power. It's giving them everything. And the reason I bring that up is you have that all over Coruscant as well. Like one point in time, in some of the lower levels of Coruscant, um,
May I
it, yeah,
interject on this one?
yep, go ahead.
In some of the deepest levels of Coruscant, far before the Galactic Empire was even remotely an idea,
I'd
the
even say the
Sith,
Sith Empire.
the original Sith Empire, the red-skinned, we got you, you're done kind of Sith Empire, uh, ruled over Coruscant and had many, many dark artifacts scattered about the planet, most concentrated where the Jedi Temple is today, except much lower. Uh, the deeper you go into the depths, the more dark, arcane evil you will find. The only glows that you'll see are radiation glows from various different chemicals and ships that have torn apart their engines as time went on. And hidden deep, deep below everything, monsters that were created between these chemicals and Sith artifacts that an actual Sith would probably never think to make.
which if I could jump in, which is literally the equivalent of like a warp, a warp cult trying to pull in a demon. The equivalent is like you have this Sith temple that is leaking out all this, the Sith, the dark force or the dark side of the force and stuff like that, which is literally turning lizards into these large beasts and things like that. And this is in the lower aspects of the city. Again, I would say probably between 1,000 to 2,000 or so, where you just don't go. So again, you have these monstrous beasts. You have these ancient relics of times long since gone, as Luna said. And not only that, you also have like an active zombie crisis that apparently became a thing. And you have, and this isn't even the mutants. We haven't even gotten to the mutant area yet. The mutant is between 5 through 1,000, which I'll keep five. Well, do we want to include 5 through 1,000, Roderick, or do I want to keep that with that one? Because I don't want to start getting into like the
5 to
worst of the
1,000.
worst.
That's going to be like the last thing you and I can talk about
Okay.
is 5 to 1,000, and then just the base hive,
Alrighty. Yeah, I'll do lower city, and I'll do. Okay,
or
yeah.
just the hive bottom. Is
Yeah.
pretty much what it's called.
Yeah, we'll do the hive bot. So yeah, I'll stick with this, the lower city, not the lowest point, I guess. But no, so between 1,000 to 2,000 or so, 1,000 to 3,000. This is where you kind of get into the aspect, the worst aspect of it. Um, uh, Actually, no, I'll well, I won't bring in the mutants. Is this about where you would get your warp demons at?
I mean, realistically, Underhive has like everything.
Okay.
So the Underhive, you can like at that point is where like power's long been turned off. This is where you'll have different various cults, which are like the Gene Stealer cults, the Chaos cults, literal Xenos infiltration. So like there could just be a hive of Tyranids down there, like just happenstance, just being there.
I'll be dead honest with you. I don't know who wins in this one, because like I said, you have the warp infestation on one side, but you also have the Star Wars, literally dark side, creating all these god awful
Monsters.
monsters that literally
Yeah.
just not even a Force user can kill, because you think of Jedi's going to go fucking down there to kill a damn monster. Hell fucking no. They're too busy trying to do anything else. Again, they don't know. They don't even know this shit exists. Um, and then you have gangs. Well, you have the gangs on the lower city, literally owning everything, and this is about the area where they just keep the prison at, so they just throw all the criminals there. So you're literally with criminals. Um, is about to this floor, and I will say I'm pretty sure you still have power in this area, but the power is not from the government slash the city. It's more or less probably from local gang lords and huts that are controlling where the power is coming from. So you're not really paying Coruscant anymore. You're just paying your local hut lord to get power, or uh, something similar, or whoever's in charge of that area. Because again, at Coruscant, no official goes this low. You're not supposed to. You don't even not supposed to be in there. Um, and this is 1,000 well, this is not 1,000. This is where I'm kind of getting into it, is really between 5 and 3,000. I haven't got. I don't want to get through 0 through 5. That's their own beast, and that's the technically the first floor. So that's where I'll stop at Roderick.
Yeah.
Is literally the floor, the first floor. But that's kind of where we are with the lower city, not the base floor, but the lower city is again, you have monsters, you have mutants, you have zombies, which is weird that they have literally a zombie plague. And this is where light really doesn't ever touch the lowest floor, and the only time it ever does that is again when you have that large spear circle that goes from like the top of Coruscant all the way down to the to literally the floor 1,000, if not one of the lowest points of the floor, and that's really where you're only going to get your sunlight at. Then after that, it branches into this hive slash network of just floors and stairways leading you up and down and stuff like that. And again, you get all your food from these cylindrical tubes, transports. And at this point in time in the lower city, you're getting your food through gangs. You're getting your food through um, whatever job you could possibly get. You're getting your food and your supplies through that. And I don't specifically, or have not found anything about how like the equivalent of like people living there. There's not really much information given other than just the fact that you don't go there. You don't be there. You don't want to be there. You just don't want to exist in there. Um, and then if you get to 5 through 1,000, which is the lowest part of the city, not hitting the first floor, that's where the mutants come into play, and this is where the extreme toxic and all the trash is. So not only do you not have sunlight, you don't have food. If you do end up going there, the mutants will just tear you limb from limb because that's where that they will eat you. There is a comic where Darth Vader went through there looking for the ancient temple, and he was literally attacked by a bunch of mutants wanting to devour him, and they were literally like jumping him all around. Like there was a fuck ton of mutants down there, and because that's you're their meal, and they don't know when their next meal is going to be. Um, and I'm pretty sure there's like anything goes there. It's literally anything goes down into the between 5 to 1,000.
A lot of the times they describe like, yeah, especially if I was to say like Necromunda, right?
Yep.
They'll describe like anything. If you're on the outsides of the hive city, you're pretty much dead. If you're 5 miles and under, usually like the height of like Hive Primus, for example, because Necromunda is made of many different hive cities just sort of lumped near each other. So if you go like Hive Primus, for example, it's like 10 miles tall. And the spire is what sits above the cloud cover. Anything below the cloud cover is like poisonous undercloud. Pretty much you have like minutes or hours to survive if you're on the outside edges. Or if you're just a mutant who's just built different. But yeah, so like the Underhive, talking about them a little bit. Every once in a while, you'll have some sort of like clan house, or you'll have the planetary governor just sort of send like a massive like kill squad to like put some reckoning into the lower levels. So they'll just send like a massive group of people, maybe an army, go kill a bunch of people on the lower areas, just to make sure you got a little fear in them. Were they innocent? Probably not. But you also have what's called like bad zones. So you have like ancient manufactorums, which is like a forest of rustling smokestacks above a labyrinth of ancient abandoned machinery, where like the rumble of dormant forges echo. You have dome jungles, which have which is like a unique biome. It's like an actual jungle forest with like twisting creepers, deadly carnivorous plants, completely overgrowing, crumbling the remains of the habitat. We have the Sump Sea, which I was sort of kind of going a little bit over earlier. It was like a bubbling morass of like toxic goo, floods, can like just completely ruin nearby areas that are just adjacent to the subsea. Um, People use boats to actually navigate across these seas and maybe not get affected by the toxic mass that's there. Um, there's what's called like Stygian depths, which are like these vast like chasms between certain domes where there's just this pit of darkness, sort of what you were describing earlier, where you just push the trash over that ledge. Like the Stygian depths are very similar to that. But like at a certain point, you just don't see down anymore. Kind of very similar. It's like it's there. We just sort of throw our trash over the ledge and just ignore it. You have like unstable domes, which is sort of what I was describing earlier. You also have warp tainted areas. So areas where you'll find a lot of these chaos cults starting at. Where the veil between reality and the warp is very thin here. People become psychers living near it, which is not the life you want to live either. Just one day you're normal, the second next day you're a psycher, third day you've gone insane and maybe have turned your life around. Instead of for the emperor, you might be towards leaning towards a demon prince because you were just tainted. um I really don't want to talk about the outlands. It's pretty much a death sentence if you're in the outlands. It's very similar to what Fanger was describing. Um, like the Outlands and the Ashlands is pretty much this toxic, uninhabitable area. Like the air is terrible. Nothing can grow there, and realistically, if you human, you will probably die here.
See, that's the floor 5 to 1,000 is literally that on Coruscant.
No.
You, if you're a human, you're going to mutate or die, um, and you don't really have anywhere to particularly live. Um,
Yeah. The hive bottom, which is pretty much when you hit the ground and then underground. Um, so the underhive transitions to like this abandoned hive bottom, marked by no light whatsoever, can pierce this. Toxic fumes emanate from a bigger sump sea. There's a labyrinth of crawl holes, monstrous creatures born from millennia of the tox waste. This is where like the worst of the worst monsters are born from the toxic waste here. Um, and they will occasionally come to the higher levels just to hunt humans. Um, their howls will haunt the underhive, and there's specific people who are like hunters who go out of their way to go to these lower levels just for a chance to maybe, it's sort of like the white whale kind of moment,
yeah.
But most do not survive encounters. Um, Once you pretty much hit the hive bottom, you're on a time limit on how long you'll survive. But I will also say it's very similar to levels 0 through 5 because the most they describe um, the hive bottom is from the rule book that they have on Necromunda. It's like a singular page in the rule book is pretty much the most you'll get about descriptions of the high bottom. So there's not a lot to go off of on it other than you're just on a death sentence the minute you decide to go there. Um, yeah. What else? I mean, realistically, I think if we're just talking about the Underhive, I really like the different guilds because they all sort of hold power over life and death in some form or manner. Um, even there was a quote on one of these I thought was really fun. The Water Guild, known colloquially as the Guild of Thirst, um, controlled the water from the very top to the Underhive, um, and they're probably the most respected guilds because if they cross the Water Guild, they and their family or anyone they know will get cut off from water, and even their settlement could just get cut off to die in a desert of rust and ash. Best case scenario is they do a little surgical dehydration. So yeah, each of these guilds is some sort of like major. Um, I'd say like they're almost like a gang in their own sort of way. Um, I think the one guild that people just don't mess with whatsoever is the Corpse Guild because they provide corpse starch, and that's like the most important thing on every floor. Except I'd probably say the only exception being the very top, um, because they get direct trades with um, the outside. So the realistically, the Spire can get fresh food from like planets. So or ag planets is what they call it, agriculture planets.
Alrighty.
I mean, I could start,
Yeah.
saying how it would be living within like the gang metroplex, apartment that they have, like the metroplex residential, areas. Because that seems like it'd be kind of comparable to like something like here.
Mhm.
Granted, you're not dealing with mutants, you're not dealing with, monstrosities or possible demons, but you know, at the same time, at this point, like if you're living within, an apartment ran like a housing complex ran by a gang, you have to work for them because they provide your housing, they provide your food, they provide your water, you know, and if you don't work for them, that they'll kick you out, and like Roderick said,
Now you're
they
breaking the law, so the judge will kill you.
yeah yeah now at that point you're breaking the law. But they do like the biggest difference between that and like for instance your guys' examples, like how you mentioned guardsmen will not go down to like the lower hive,
Yeah.
or like guards aren't in the lower section of the Star Wars, like Coruscant.
I'm just reading what he just wrote. But Warhammer and Star Wars suck, Lore City.
um you know in if you're in a gang apartment, you can randomly have a judge come in that wants to say, bring in a gang member or even the gang leader of your, your housing. And at that point, if the gang tells you kill the judge or you don't get to live there anymore, you have to kill the judge or you have to try.
Either that or they kill you.
Yeah. And so at that point, you'll just be meat shields for the gang, and you'll either be getting shot in the back by the gang or you'll be getting shot in the face by the judge. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the movie Manager.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. So you kind of understand where I'm going with on this part.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I got it.
it's you know definitely like not a good situation. Granted, like I said, you know are having judges still coming there, so that means the law is still being enforced. But at the same time, the judges aren't like the guards in Warhammer. They're not like the guard, like any police force in Star Wars. They are clones. They're expendable. If you kill the one judge, you know you might have more coming your way.
What's even worse is if you remember, if you take a judge's gun, it literally kills you.
Yeah,
And so your firepower is nowhere comparable to what a judge has. And their pistols have many, many uses. Full automatic, sure. Wall penetration, absolutely. Missile mode, fuck it. We got grenades. The grenades do many things.
hmm
And like the judges themselves are literally a walking army. They
yeah,
have plenty of ammo for plenty of individuals.
yeah. Because at that point, if the gang starts opening fire on the judge, like Roderick said earlier, the judge goes from, okay, I want to bring this person in, to, all right, it's kill on sight. And so if you get in the way of the judge, you're gonna die. But you have to get in their way, because if you don't, the gang is not going to let you live there. And so at this point, it's a lose lose
It
of
is
either you,
22.
yeah, because and because like you guys were mentioning, like the entire areas are like ran by gangs. Like in Coruscant, lower sections, like the gangs kind of control, for the most part, every aspect of like how comfortable you are living there. And in Warhammer, the gangs control, like your ability to gather resources there. And whereas like in Dread and in the Dread universe, the gang, they give you the minimum required to survive because they know you have no other option. They're not going to make you comfortable. They'll give you a place, sure, but that's only so you are not breaking the law officially in the judge's eyes, but you are there to just be a meat shield for them.
In most cases, you're not even you don't even have your own apartment. You're probably sharing the apartment with multiple people, and you don't know who those people are. You don't know what they've done. You don't know if they're a gang member. You just know that there are other people that are there with you.
Mm-hmm. And they will shoot you in the back too if you don't do what the gang says, and they do.
So
And they'll take your like, oh yeah, here's food and water for you individually, but there might be a hierarchy in your apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So I still, me personally, my belief is I think
Yeah.
Dread is still bad. Don't get me wrong, but it's Warhammer and Star Wars is still particularly worse. Um,
Oh yeah, because the
and
worse your
what
feel.
what I was about to say, and the reason why is it's funny enough is because of the judge. In my mindset, um,
Mhm.
when you have an area where the law will still go there versus two other universes where the law says fuck that shit, I'm out.
Well, the judges will go anywhere that they're told to go because, like I said, Roger mentioned and I mentioned before, they are clones.
Oh,
They are expendable.
oh no
So
no, I get you.
even they are not, really above the shittiness of the world.
Oh no, I get you. Star Wars had clones too, and Star Wars said, "No, we aren't sending our clones there. That's a waste of time. That place is on their own." Um, and I don't know about Warhammer, but Warhammer's, you're very expendable as well. So that's why it's like I think those two are bad in the sense, or worse than that in the sense that, like, even though the Dread is still bad, don't get me wrong, the Judge is still someone you don't want to come across to. Don't get me wrong, I'm not arguing that point. What my argument was is, at least the city itself or the government's like, we'll send our Judge into this place to wipe out this gang.
What's
To
sad,
insert whatever particular reason.
here's the also kicker is the city is perpetually at war. There's never a time where a gang is never at war.
Oh yeah.
So like in terms of like Warhammer or Star Wars, there are some periods of breathing room. If you're in a gang, or if you're and the difference with the mega city is, if there's a gang, there's a war. The gang was wiped out by a judge. Within fucking minutes of the judge leaving, there's a new gang there.
And I'll be honest with you, the Star Wars universe is, you're usually combating someone in the hive area.
Yeah.
You've seen it in Nar Shaddaa, and you see it in Coruscant. If you're not in the upper areas, if you're in the lower areas where the gangs have control, you're fighting someone. It's probably the Hutts, because the Hutts want to have complete control, and so now the Hutts are going to just start slaughtering anybody that does them wrong. It's kind of like the mafia in New York.
Yeah.
Is the easiest way to explain it. There's no police, so now you just have a bunch of mafia families that are like trying to size each other up because they all want they all want their territory. Like I said, in the lower areas, when you go to work and hope you don't get mugged or robbed or whatever, or death, and you come back, and the same for same for
Yeah.
yourself. Like I said, I'm not saying that that's worse. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, it's a lot of the similarities is between
Yeah,
the Star
I'm
Wars and
saying
this
like
area there.
in all three, probably there's not breathing room, is what I'm trying to say
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah. There's no breathing room in these particular areas. And again, the fact, my mindset is the fact that the judge even goes in there is what makes me like a little bit more happier to be there, because at least the government cares just a little bit to give me aid
Try to put it
versus
in
the
your
fucking,
head.
huh?
To put they at least
At,
will be willing
at
to
least
send a
they're
judge
kind
in to
enough
put a
to kill
gun
you.
in your head.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're kind enough to send a judge in there to kill me instead of literally the Hut being like, "Hey, you're a slave for the rest of your life, buddy. Bye bye."
or,
The thing is, before the judge shows up, you are a slave to the gang.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what it says.
oh
Like,
man,
you're a slave, but at least the government helps and decides to either kill you, or now you're free from that particular gang until the
we
next
have
gang comes.
chosen freedom for you. Oh, that's cool. Freedom is death.
Or you got freedom for the next 5 minutes before this gang comes in and takes your freedom away
Oh
from
no!
you.
If a gang gets wiped out and you're still in there, you didn't
You didn't
support the
live.
gang.
You
Yeah,
didn't
Yeah,
live.
but that's
you didn't. Yeah, you didn't support the gang.
But there's
So the
that
new gang
5
will probably
minutes.
kill you.
There's that 5 minutes of respect.
yeah. But see, that's the thing is, like, again, I go back to, that's why in my mindset the judges is a little bit better for those two, because again the guards are active there, the police are active there, whereas in these two universes it's not even worth it. Your area and your freedom is not even worth it. I actually found out when I was doing some little bit of research on Coruscant, it's gotten so bad that, I started thinking about why Warhammer's actually worse than Star Wars and Coruscant, is only because Coruscant is um, a city hive, so it has tons and tons of mileage. So apparently in Star Wars but in all these levels, you might have a bunch of levels where there's just no one there, and then all of a sudden you come across a town or a city that has, or again, a town inside this city where they literally built a village and they guard themselves from any outside force or monsters, because Coruscant doesn't even know there's a fucking town that's in level 50, or level 500. Like, you are 100% on your own, um, if you go into some of these lower areas, and again, Coruscant doesn't even know you exist down there. So that's why I started thinking, honestly, like Warhammer is a bit worse because at least for Star Wars, you can kind of hide. Or there's a chance you might spawn in level 50 under some area and there's no one around you for a 10-mile radius. Whereas Warhammer, it's so condensed into this one area that I don't think you have any particular area where um, you don't run into somebody.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah,
if
that's
I
pretty, like you're bound to run across like a nomadic tribe of mutant like ash raiders.
Yeah.
You're bound to run into maybe the corpse guild, and they're short a few people. Um,
That's the thing. Like I feel like Star Wars is not the worst one. It's still bad. Don't get me wrong. You're going to die regardless, even
oh
if you
yeah, yeah. I
spawn.
mean, any of these, I'm pretty sure you're just
Yeah,
dead. But
even if you spawn in at like floor 780, you probably spawned in. No one's around you. Congratulations, you're gonna die from cancer. You spawn in at floor 1700. Congratulations, you're by yourself. You're probably gonna starve to death because there's no one near you. Like it still sucks no matter where you spawn in on Coruscant. It's just you might last longer than you would in Warhammer. Um, because again, it's not highly concentrated. Now, again, if you go up to the top areas, then it's more concentrated, but you have a better chance at living there. I would say that that again, Judge Dredd is worse in that aspect than it is in into the two, because again, you get to the middle of the high area.
Yeah. But yeah, and but the thing also I will say with the judges, they will send them into no man's land if they have to. Like they are that expendable because they'll just make more clones.
Oh, I know. Don't get me wrong. Again, I get your clone thing, but again, you got to remember, Star Wars literally clad the Clone Wars, where they were literally sent to Felucia, a shit planet that had no strategic value whatsoever. And even the clones are like, why the fuck are we here? This whole planet is trying to kill anything living. The droids were like flourishing on this planet. And the clones were like dying of every type of disease and infestation. And they wanted a planet just to make sure the droids didn't get it. Like, the Coruscant has expendable troops, and they don't care if they get wiped out if as long as they can particularly win. And their guards are about the same. I mean, the reason why I also say that is like
Well,
you have ships that randomly activate in Coruscant, of Hive people getting these dreadnought ships and turning them on and starting to fly up, and it kills hundreds of millions of people as the ship just bursts through layers of Coruscant to literally fuck off and leave. Like one of the things is Palpatine in one of the canon legends literally gets into a ship that he was building up under Coruscant's levels, turns it on, it starts to lift up. As it lifts up, it starts to wipe out skyscrapers, buildings, layers. I mean, hundreds of millions, if not a few billion people probably died in this Star Destroyer as it lifts up and leaves. Like in
yeah.
Star Wars, you are expendable by 1,000%.
Oh yeah. No, and yeah, and I completely get that. I agree that you are not wrong. At least, they will send a judge, but it is not exactly, to save you in this case. Like, um, there's no like all of three of these really suck.
Yeah, no, that's why I said like I have to pick one, two, and three. I had to pick one, two, and three. So that's why it's like, well, in the scheme of things, if I compare these three, I mean, you're screwed no matter what you pick. But at least the highlight is the government is going to send an agent to fix this area, possibly. Whereas the other two, the government's going to be like, huh, oh, you exist, whatever, bye. Or more worse, oh, you exist, pay me taxes.
Yeah.
It's time
Well,
to
yeah,
tithe.
and the only real release and the only real reason that the Dread one is better is because, like you said, the judge will come in and kill you.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, the other two, you're going to die either by starvation, slowness, or cancer. I mean, none of this is fun by any
Yeah.
means
Well, and I'm sure
necessary.
there are people who do within these complexes do commonly die of like starvation. and shit like that. Like Roger mentioned, there you may be in a in a housing resident that has in its own internal hierarchy where like you may be at the bottom and you're not going to get to eat,
Oh
so
yeah.
you may die, but best case scenario, you live long enough to be shot by a judge.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, and the thing is, you got to go with like an average, an average life, and I don't see an average life having fun, um, or even if I just took
Yeah.
you and spawned you in any of these random places in these areas, I don't see you having fun. Now, um,
Oh yeah,
again,
I got two more groups I wanted to talk about.
all right.
So you have the Redemptionists, which are people who have had terrible lives. Maybe they killed a bunch of people. But they found light in the Emperor, and so what they'll do is they'll just kill it. It's pretty much a cult for the Emperor.
Oh, so there's
And
even emperor cults there.
yeah, and so they'll go around and kill random people if they don't believe that these individuals follow the Emperor of mankind.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Um,
no, yeah. At least with the judge, you're not dealing with like monsters, basically.
and then you also have the Spyver Hunters, which I don't know. Let me know if Star Wars has something similar, because I think this is actually hilarious. So children of hive nobles, um, in order to prove their worth, they'll go hunt random people in the Underhive.
So no, not that I'm aware of, but also I will say that the hive cities haven't been flushed out as much as Warhammer. Um,
Mhm.
so there's a possibility that there is. It's just it hasn't been really flushed out. The only thing that you're told is that the lower you go, the higher chance you die.
Gotcha. So
And
yeah, it's literally like pretty much, hey, you're a noble's kid. Here's a like a hunting rig, which is similar to like the power armor, like the civilian power armor. Let's be honest. um, and they're sent down, and there's like they give them tasks. So it's just like take over a gang, or kill like a few hundred um people in the Underhive, because like effectively people in the Underhive compared to like the Spire are considered slightly better than a rodent in terms of like hierarchy in their eyes.
so the Star Wars does have something again similar. I mean, this slavery is a big thing in Star Wars universe. Even though
Mhm.
it's like tries to be this kid friendly thing. Hey Ty, we are doing a what is the worst place to live? Star Wars Hive City, Warhammer Hive City, or Judge Dredd. Um, but anyways, as I was saying, like again, we do keep in mind that slavery is such a massive thing in the Star Wars universe, even though Disney likes to dress this universe up as like this kid-friendly thing, and it's really not. Um, so yeah, sure, if you want to join. Um, but I will say that you do have the slaves, and you do have people who will just kill slaves just because they particularly enjoy it. I don't know what
It
that
gets me
was.
every time.
I don't know
It's when
what
he
that was.
joins.
That was Ty.
Oh, okay. Anyways,
Sorry.
oh no, you're fine. But no, so you have again you have the slave aspect of the Star Wars universe and the Coruscant. So again, the lower you go, the more aspect of the game control that you have. And again, I go back to that because again, there's not a lot flushed out other than the fact that you have gangs and you have places that are so away from the government structure of the republic that they have to create their own governments and their own kind of like city slash country inside of the bowels of Coruscant. Um, and they literally have their own actual, government, defense force and stuff like that, where they're just trying to survive and live because there's just no way to leave. Um, because again, once you're probably born into that levels, you don't have any money to get up, and you probably also have a class system just like Coruscant, where it's like you are mutated, or obviously you come from the lower areas and get the fuck back, and you're not coming back up. Kind of like again Futurama, with the mutants. It's kind of the same situation. But again, I will say for the lower cities, I still think Warhammer is worse because it's more concentrated, whereas Star Wars, at least you're not concentrated into one city. You have an entire planet, that is this massive, massive fucking planet, with various types of layers. I do like how, um, again, the fact that the Kive isn't really thought out too much. I will say this: a lot of this stuff is speculation because a lot of the information is constantly changing, thanks to Disney aspect of saying this is legend, this is not. Because it's funny how it's like, well, the first kilometer, is perfectly safe to live in. It's like it's 5,000 layers, so layers probably living quarters, I'm assuming. So that's 5,000 places with the 10-foot tall area. So like that's what you have. Like, I don't know. It's weird how they decided to name that, in my personal opinion. And
How much actual
yeah.
planet is underneath the city?
Unknown. It's I think they said it about the planet the size of Earth, and effectively it's the equivalent that I gave to it is it's Futurama.
Oh.
If you ever watch New York, then you have New York, and then you have New York. Is how they built this planet up. Is they just kept building cities on top of cities, and every now and then, because of how they built it, they had to send a task force down to like the first floor to repair parts of it so their skyscrapers don't fall over.
Hold on, I had to fix uh his mic. Hold on, no, leave then join again.
Me?
No.
No.
What?
All right, he should be able to speak as long as he unmutes himself.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel like Star Wars, by comparison to Dread, is just slightly better because of the fact that, it's not monsters or, that will possibly kill you. It's a judge. And I'd rather get shot in the face than, mauled and mutilated by a Sith lizard.
Well, about to say you got the Sith lizards and you got the mutants that will rip you, limb from limb and start devouring your particular flesh.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
are mutants.
you also have the zombies that I didn't think were a thing, but apparently they're
Yeah.
fucking zombies walking around.
You
Yeah,
got the.
there are mutants within Dread,
Yeah.
but I don't know if like how many of them, at least within the city, are the eat you and your family kind. That would be more of a question of like if Roderick knows.
Not on the top of my head. It'd have to be something I'd look into. I know it for the case of 40K, where it's just like majority, if they're a mutant, majority of the time it's the deaf to non-mutant kind.
Yeah.
But
Whereas like I would
as
say
far as the ones and the Judge Dredd, hold on, just give me like 1 second. I'll figure that out.
I will say since they probably allowed mutants within the city, like openly allowed mutants within the city in the series later on, there are probably at least some good mutants.
Imagine the bowels of Coruscant are pretty bad too. I mean, look at Taurus from Knights of the Old Republic. They had weird mutated creatures down there too.
Okay, Kuma actually brought this up, which I found interesting. Let's look at it from this point of view. What is the easier to climb up, so to speak, in
Not
terms
Dread,
of everything?
because
Um,
definitely not Dread.
I think the more interesting question is, where would you want to live in terms of middle class?
It's
Well,
still not Dread.
if you want to go off of something like that, you'll have to look at what you're factoring into, especially with this whole thing of what is the worst place to live at. If we are looking at the people / the individuals themselves, technically speaking, the Judge Dredd would be the worst place to be at because you are literally having to live within that one God, was like the Twilight Zone episode where everyone has to have a positive thought, and the minute you stray from that, you're dead or you get killed or something. Like, if you guys remember that episode, always have a happy thought. If not, this boy with mental powers will just do something and change you. Except in this case, it's you have to follow everything to the letter. And the minute you step out of line, or if a judge just has a bad day, you're dead either way.
Yeah.
So looking here, just a little bit about mutants. If you're outside of the city, you're fine as a mutant. But any norm who harbored a mutant was himself guilty of a crime and liable to the death penalty. If you are a mutant in any form or manner and you're inside the megacity, you are liable to death. And realistically, there are a lot of mutants. So you could just RNG and just be a mutant. And be like, oh, dude, I want to live in the megacity. You're just dead.
Yeah.
So I will say I think the back to Luna's question. So like if you're middle class, you probably
Or
want
just
to
the average
live.
citizen. I heard Sam was gonna say there isn't a middle class in some areas.
Yeah.
There's no middle class in Warhammer. It's either you're low class or you're high class. It's
Yeah.
literally that.
So I
And
probably
it also really depends if you were lucky enough to be like if you were lucky to be part of one of the guilds, then I'd say you're in a like that's the whole thing about the Warhammer. It's just like it's like 100% luck. There's no going up or down.
So to answer Kuma's question and Luna's question all in one go, I feel like Star Wars in the terms to middle to high, is the best place to the best place to live. Um, yeah, you still have your crime if you're not on the first, you're not on the 5,000 floor. Yeah, I get that. But you still have guards moving around. You still have light gang activity, light gang control, and you can easily start moving your way up and stuff like that. So I think that would be that. I think middle to high still is Judge Dredd, is the worst one to go with, followed by Warhammer, then there's Star Wars.
I would say at least in the positives is if you were lucky enough to be in the upper parts, there's a lower chance of you dying to like at least the worst things. You know, you're less likely to die from a Xenos or like maybe a Chaos cult. So at least you got that going on.
Yeah.
So like like if you were born in maybe the middle upper levels, you're like, wow, life isn't absolutely the worst.
So
You're still forced to work.
Whereas in Dread, it's like there is no middle upper.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
either you're lower class or you're dead.
So I will
Like-
say for the lower cities in Star Wars, which I found kind of funny, but this is Legend, but I'm bringing Legend in because fuck Disney with their aspect of let's get rid of all the lore and do shit with it. They had it to where you were talking about how like the Tyranids, and you might have the Tau or Tyranids or somebody down into the lower area. Funny enough,
Yeah.
which I didn't know, Coruscant, you had literally the part of the Yuuzhan Vong down into the lower part of the city after they got wiped out.
Yeah.
You had like the Sith down into the lower area. So like the lower city, you actually also have like a boatload of fucking enemies to the Republic and the Galactic Empire, literally just hiding down there, building up their time to literally bust through and try to retake the planet.
Yeah, but I will say though, of course, it comes hand in hand with the Warhammer universe. Is at any point where you're living could just have the void just show up, and now where you're living is void touched, or any one of the cults can just show up out of nowhere. Like you are not exempt from the rule.
Oh,
That's why I'm pretty much like it's either lower class or higher class because it's just like you have a lower chance of it happening, but like what's the difference between 0.5% chance of versus Oh, sorry, not even that. It's just like, what's the difference between 90% and 90.5%?
Well, so for the lower city, I won't give it. I can't personally give it over Warhammer or Star Wars. I do
Yeah.
give Warhammer just a little bit of an edge, and it has nothing to do with the warp or anything. It has everything to do with it's more concentrated. Um, because if it's more concentrated, then obviously you have more of the bad aspects of everything hitting you. Whereas again, I go back with Star Wars, they literally have like small cities inside this mega city that literally no one forgets about or no one knows about. So in the lower city, if you don't find one of the good cities to live in, then you're going to effectively die. And that's in my mindset. The only reason I give Warhammer just a little bit of an edge is because um, it's more spread out on this planet versus again Warhammer, which is a high city, which is condensed,
Right.
50 billion people living in a 5 mile radius.
I think honestly part of it comes down to like Star Wars tries to find like quote unquote the light in the darkness.
Oh,
Well,
not really. The star again, it goes down to just being this a planet-sized city. Like if I went with Nar
yeah,
Shaddaa instead of Coruscant, we'd be having a different conversation, and I'd actually be saying that Nar Shaddaa can actually give Judge Dredd a run for its money. And the only reason I say that is because Nar Shaddaa is run by the Hutts. It's not run by the Galactic Empire or the Republic, which is, you might think, oh, Galactic Empire is better. Yeah, I mean, they're bad, but, at least they have rules and they have
yeah,
a thing where
and
you
they,
can
they,
live.
they definitely hold
Actually, the
some
Empire for its
sort of
average citizens were actually pretty damn
governance.
good.
Yeah, I mean, like the Huts are more or less of, you're either a slave to me, or you're a slave to a place, or you're paying me taxes. That's kind of your life on Nar Shaddaa, and anything goes as long as I stay in control. And but that's the thing is that it's two different types of hive cities, and I think Coruscant is a more better representation of a hive city, even though Nar Shaddaa is literally a half planet hive city. Um, but like I said, it's the type of thing where I can kind of do that both ways. But again, I still think Warhammer is still in terms of a city worse because again, it's not concentrated. Um, and that one. However, I will say I think the first floor is Coruscant. And the only reason why I give it the first floor to the Coruscant is because there's no part of the first floor where you can survive.
Yeah.
The mutants don't survive there, from what I can able to see. Humans don't survive there. You either die of mutant, which also dies of the radiation and dies of poison, or you die from a monster. There is just death on the first floor. But I mean, it might be the same as Warhammer though, so it might just be a tie on the first floor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't whenever I'm reading stories, it's like it's not humans that live on on the hive bottom. It's whatever monstrosities that are born of the of the toxic waste. So like however you want to compare that to the Star Wars universe, I think both are just absolutely just not livable. Like it comes down to like we can agree it's uninhabitable like 100%.
Yeah, like there is nothing on the first floor that will allow for you to survive.
Yeah. And whereas, like, even if you're a mutant, you could probably live outside the city.
Yeah,
It
I
might
mean,
suck, but you can live out there.
yeah, I think honestly like the one thing that I can talk about that like Coruscant doesn't have because if I remember right, Coruscant is like 100% there's no room on like on the planet.
They don't have any room on the planet.
Yeah.
It's literally just a planet-sized
Actually, funny enough,
thing.
during the Empire, Darth Vader actually did own one of the very, very few villas that still had natural nature outside of it.
Yeah.
Think of it as a
And
lake.
That was
It's really
funny.
well,
nice.
like at least in the positive for the Warhammer one, there are like I said, jungle domes where somehow plant life has, life has found a way, but like none of it's livable there because it literally describes like these plants that'll just kill people.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Now,
Uh,
if you were like a normal non-mutant and go outside the city, you're dead from the
Yeah,
radiation.
100%. But I think if we're talking about just the outside, Even though it's a barren wasteland, like I said, they call it the Ashlands. Um, Realistically, mutants can live out there. If they don't need to breathe really well. Yeah, I mean, realistically, because it's like tainted air out there, so it's still air. But
Full of
like,
radiation and nuclear waste, but
I
it's
mean,
still
that's fine. And I think realistically, from reading like the Judge Dredd one, even the Wasteland is absolutely terrible because of the atomic wars. Um, and so like pretty much it is like radiated air, and like life out there is pretty much just non-existent other than just the mutants. Um, and so like if we're talking about like life outside, if we're just comparing like the 40K to the Judge Dredd, both are equally terrible if we're talking about the outlands outside the cities. Um, and the closest comparison I could find, by the way, to Coruscant is it really has to deal with the is Necromunda is like the closest thing I could come up with as far as like entire planet cities. But Necromunda is like a cluster of hive cities sort of bunched together.
Yeah, well, like I
So
said,
it's
Coruscant is not a
it's not
planet.
considered one city, but it is one city. They're all like connected in some form or manner. So like you're hitting semantics at a certain point when
Yeah.
there's like 50 feet between these hive cities and there's like a single tunnel. Like okay, they're pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, no, like again, where Coruscant is like this planet size. I mean, take Earth and literally
Yeah.
just drain it of majority of its lakes and oceans and shit like that, and then just build a fucking city around it, and then literally have like start building upwards, and as you build upwards, you're building like layers and mines and shafts and hallways and rooms and buildings and stuff like that, and you're just constantly building up. And it's just it's again at one point in time it's just, it's there's places to like be able to live at and breathe. It's just you still have a high chance of dying,
Yeah.
but you could still survive because again there's tons and tons of room.
What I will argue against both Star Wars and 40K is if we're talking about hive cities in general. Not just Coruscant and not just Necromunda or not, because there are some hive cities in both of those universes that are good and don't have issues. Or
Well, so
they do have issues, but there's very little.
yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say that now there is other cities that I won't call them technical hive cities, because they're just large cities kind of spread out throughout the area.
sure.
Again, I'll give you an example like Mos Eisley and Tatooine. It's a city. I mean, it's not a hive city because it's not built on top of each other. It's not condensed into each other. It does have
Mhm.
its own problems, but it's still it's still a
Not the
little bit
case.
better of a place to live than this
Yeah,
place. Um,
because like in comparison, if you look at like the Judge Dredd, every single time there's like a hive city or like major city, whatever you want to call them. I forget what they're called again. Um, but in those cases, they're never good. They're always like this dystopian authority. Gosh,
well, it
it-
also depends.
Authoritarian.
authoritarianism sort of outlook to them.
Yeah, well, it
Um,
depends on where you go in Star Wars.
yeah.
Like the example for you is if you stay within the core worlds of the Star Wars, you're having a fantastic life. And you're middle class to upper class. You're having a fantastic life. You're good. You're living just like the American dream here in the States. If you're in a mining world or outside of the core worlds, uh, you have a shitty life.
Yeah.
You want the bullet. Effectively, is what's going to happen. You're a slave. You're. It's cheaper to have a human slave than it is a robot slave. So you are effectively just going to mine, or you're going to farm, or you're going to do this, and if you're not on the mining world, then you're probably on a farming world, or you're on another world where you rule by the governor who decides to whatever the hell they want to do. Because again, that's just how the kind of
Yeah,
outside the core
and
worlds
both of those
work.
circumstances, they're probably very similar ideas, like pretty much exact same ideas as what like Warhammer does. Is like you have ag worlds, agriculture worlds.
Mhm.
You have mining worlds. You have I don't know if I'm pretty sure Star Wars has pleasure worlds.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So like,
Well,
um,
that's usually like the running joke. Again, I go back to Disney trying to like dress up Star Wars as this kid place, but then it drops. I'll take you to the Twi'lek. God, what was it? The
Homeworld.
Twi'lek spa area, which is pretty much just I'm gonna go take you to like a slave pleasure den. It's like, yeah, I mean, that
Yeah,
sounds
it's
about
like
right.
in general, you have pretty similarities like that, and I think, like you have pretty relatively pretty nice worlds, and they can suck absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But like in like in the cases of like the Karshadons, they'll show up on a mining world on the Outer Rim, borrow a few people, then the entire planet's just gone at a certain point. And you're like, what happened to that? But like you can say the same thing in the Star Wars universe. There could be one of these unknown alien Xenos aliens. Sorry, I keep going to wherever
You're fine.
Warhammer. But yeah, there could be like alien species that like are unknown on some of these that are just nearby some of these mining worlds, and people disappeared. What happened? Fucking aliens, I guess, and
Yeah,
they're just ignored.
and I mean that's effectively what you have. I mean, what was it? Darth Bane in one of the books, uh, literally just and correct me if I'm wrong, Luna. Doesn't he just kill like some of the mining areas and just leaves? There's something happened to his mining planet, and he just leaves, and no one cares. No one bat an eye. It was just kind of like, yeah, well, we lost that area. Let's just go ahead and get some more slaves, throw them on this planet, and start mining again. Um, like you
Or
are.
there's even that Sith that like consumes worlds.
Yeah, I mean it's
So
one of the another one is like where they just activate this death weapon, wiping out an entire planet, but killing the Mandalorians if they particularly want to, which brings in Darth. God, I can't think of his name. Uh, uh,
Plagueis?
Plagueis, yeah, your favorite guy,
Yeah.
yeah, who brings in that one. So I mean, you have these
but
things where they just
where
don't
I'm
care.
going at is, yeah, obviously there are places that are absolutely terrible, but I think what writers have done in um and in the Judge Dredd universe, that they've done different is where you have the grimdark fantasy sort of focus for 40K. There's still writers that will write positive, happy things every once in a blue moon, just sort of cut through the depressing for a bit. You're like, look at the happy planet, and you're like, wow, that's kind of cool. Oh, anyway, so back to this terrible fucking universe, and you're like, yeah, at least I smile for half a second. The Star Wars sort of does the same thing in a lot of cases. You're like, wow, what a beautiful world. This is great. One thing that like I've noticed when I've read a lot of Judge Dredd is you'll have these moments where you're like, is this happy? And you're like, okay, well the people here are on like surface level are happy, but the writer is giving me danger signs everywhere.
What? Well, again,
And then you'll read it and you're like, oh yeah, this shit sucks. Like even though they're pretending to be happy, you realize that like no one there is actually happy. They're forcing themselves to smile for the camera per se.
and it's also depend. I mean, again, one other thing for Judge Dredd
So it comes
is
with the
that
writers, I guess.
well,
But
it,
like
it
the
comes with
writers
the
who have
planet.
yeah, but the writers who have written Judge Dredd are like, no, everything sucks.
Yeah,
And the only thing that's going to be happy is the sweet release of Judge Dredd's pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, what's the thing is like you have that one specific planet and that one specific timeline, and that what they're working with versus like Star Wars and Warhammer, where it's like, well, is it Warhammer's been alive for millennia, constantly doing all the
Yeah.
shit, and same Star Wars has been alive for
Various
literally a
planets.
millennia. It has a billion planets, hundreds of
Yeah.
trillions, if not whatever the higher than trillion population. So yeah, obviously you're going to have some really nice worlds. You're going to have some really shit worlds you don't want to go to. So I mean. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. The Drudge Dread is awful, because that's what the writers decide to do with it. That's literally the only planet they particularly have. Um,
They're like, this is our planet, and we're gonna make it shitty.
yeah, I mean, like
Yeah,
one of the
there's higher highs but lower lows. Whereas
what
Judge Dredd, your sweet release is a bullet.
so like go back to Domon Kaz as well as the Sith homeworld. I can't think of starts with a K now. I don't know where Luna
Mhm.
is, so she can't help me with that. Um, where is Luna? No, no, no. Oh, she must not be paying attention. Oh well. Anyways, where you been? We've been talking about you. Lame.
I'm sorry.
What's the
We
Sith
were talking
homeworld?
about Star Wars, and you weren't here. What
I
is
know.
this?
I'm sad.
Moraband or Koraband?
Yep, Corban. See, I have tie now since you're not paying attention.
Oh,
So you have Korban, you have Doma and Kaz, who are both
Doma and Kaz.
populated. You have two super populated planets that are now
isn't
deserted.
populated at this
Well, no,
moment.
they're deserted now, right?
Yes, absolutely. Both the original Sith homeworlds have been deserted for quite some time.
Is
Because
it quote? Are we doing quotes when we say deserted?
oh
or are
no,
they
they're
actually
deserted. Like they
Okay.
Korban
Just making sure here.
Korban was kind of like Tatooine, where it's a desert planet because it's been destroyed by war, to the point where it's just you don't want to go there because you're going to die, either by a Sith ghost or it's you're going to die by a Sith ghost, a Sith creation, a monster, or sandstorm. And Doman Kaz is a large planet that was abandoned. You still see like city structures everywhere. Um, it's kind of another kind of a little bit of a hive world there.
It's also eternally locked in storm.
Yep.
Because of the dark side rituals that went on that place. It is now a nexus in the Force, and it is beautiful.
So you got like again you got these other planets that like are terrible to live in. That the writers are like, no one here has a good time because I said so. But then on the flip side, um, you have like what was it the some of the TV shows that just came out where it's like the simplest farmer is looks like rice farming in Star Wars with an actual like hut in the background and everything with a robot walking by. Like on the flip side, you have planets that are just like beautiful, breathtaking, absolutely gorgeous, not touched by the Empire or the Republic. Which is still funny to me how that happens in the Star Wars universe. Like one planet's completely desolated and another planet is flourishing with life, beautiful and starting to be colonized.
The big galaxy.
Oh yeah.
Bespin's a really good place to live. Moncala, I've heard, is pretty good. If you like history, Yavin 4 is pretty awesome.
Whereas like by comparison, it's like yeah, you can travel from Mega City 1 to like say Sauron's Valley, but you're gonna be dead.
Oh yeah, and again, well that's the thing that's what the writers decided to do, and nothing against the writers. But that's that's where I'm kind of thinking where we are right now. What's up? Oh, sorry, I thought somebody was trying to talk. I don't want to talk over anybody.
Oh no, I'm sorry. If you hear something, it might be the yapping of the never-ending yaps behind me.
I don't hear it. You're fine.
I love a good shitty place. Like look at Night City from Cyberpunk.
That is like a
something Star Wars
vacation compared
related,
to.
then Narsha does pretty good.
I mean, Night City is pretty terrible though.
Yeah, but by comparison to like these three cities,
Yeah, by
it's
comparison,
a sweet
yeah.
vacation.
So at one point there was a Hive Secundus, which was the second greatest hive city in Necromunda. And it was built upon 3 remote ruined hives, or yeah, pretty much. And it had it had some great shit to it. But the Adeptus Mechanicus, at none of their fault, may have been doing some biological research, and then it fell to a gene stealer infestation and purged pretty much half the city or more. And it was just sort of excommunicated from the entire planet.
It was a great place to live until it wasn't.
Until everyone. So, like, gene stealers, a good explanation of them is originally they look like Tyranids, but over time, with more research that they do internally with the gene stealers themselves, they'll eventually look more human until they're look exactly like humans. And you can't tell any difference between a human and a gene stealer.
So then how do we know that all the humans haven't been replaced with gene stealers?
Because you're not trying to murder humans. Probably.
But you just explained how the lower city, everyone's murdering each other.
And this is where we come up with a really confusing moment.
Yeah. All right, so I think we have our outcomes. The middle to high goes Judge Dredd, worse, Warhammer bad, good Star Wars. The lower cities, both Warhammer and Star Wars, suck. You won't have a good time. You will die. Warhammer may be worse because it's more concentrated. Star Wars is a planet-sized city, plenty of places to hide and survive. And then the first floor, it's a tie between Star Wars and Warhammer. You will die on this floor.
We could talk about the sewers in Mega City 1, but they're just irradiated toxic waste from the Atlantic City, or from the Atlantic Sea, that, essentially you might as well be outside and you might as well be dead.
That might as well be outside.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that is, like, toxic waste, that's literally 0 through 1,000 in the Coruscant. So you have like 1,000 floors of just toxic waste and trash that you have to deal with.
I have a question for y'all then.
All right.
Where in your chosen universe would you want to live if you had the choice?
Actually, hold on, Figure. I got you. For the Judge Dredd universe, I would like to be president.
You don't choose your position, just where you live.
No, I get to be the president.
So if I had to pick, I'm not gonna be president. Hell, fucking no, that's too much work.
That would be the only way I would be happy in that universe. In the 40K, I guess if you're in the Spire, like, that's the only, like, I mean, realistically, just how I described it, it's fantastic, and it really is. But you were most likely born as a noble or a noble's kid, so eventually you're gonna have to go in the Undercity and hunt some people. So long as you can do that, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
So Richard's going with killing people to secure his position. How about you, manager?
Mine would probably be a tie between the upper areas of Coruscant, obviously, because again that would be kind of a beautiful large city, lots of things to do, lots of places to see and everything. However, I'm also torn because again, some of the planets on Star Wars are just absolutely fucking breathtaking. One of them being it was the Mandalorian episode where they go to the rice field planet. That's to me, that's a fucking beautiful place to live. Literally, you're just out in the middle of nature, have a large lake in front of you and stuff like that. Oh no, I know who I would live. Naboo. Fuck that shit. I'm living in Naboo.
Naboo's a pretty nice place.
That's a beautiful fucking
Very
place.
Beautiful.
I forgot.
Since George Lucas doesn't know how to do biomes, the whole planet is that way.
Yep.
So I was talking to John, and he mentioned that, and I had forgotten about this, is Mega City 1 does have a recycle plant, which it does the same sort of thing that, the 40K universe does, and we recycle meat. Whatever kind of meat it is, we recycle it. Ding.
They also recycle their sewage.
Well, a lot of
Well,
we
okay.
do that in real life.
Which makes thinly veiled cannibalism possible.
Yeah. Like I said, Judge Dredd, if I can't pick to be the president, I pick to be at the end of a barrel.
Anywho, I'm not gonna lie, I would choose Rusan. The planet of Rusan. And it's totally not just because the Valley of the Jedi is there so I can get force powers.
Totally.
Hey, at least my experience in my world will be the quickest. Because I'll jaywalk until a judge shoots me.
Oh, jeez.
Stop! He's not. He's known as Jay the Jaywalker. We haven't been able to catch him yet. Meanwhile, you're just sitting there being like, I'm right here!
We're gonna get this son of a bitch one way or another.
This is
I'm right here!
this is a line from the A to Z of Judge Dredd. Nothing goes to waste in Mega City 1, not even the dead. Due to massive population of the city and incredibly close confines, burying the dead is a privilege reserved for the super rich. Most corpses are sent to the nearest recycle center, where the body is broken down into component parts and rendered into other materials. Funeral services are frequently held at the recycle, so the bereaved can say goodbye to their loved ones and purchase reasonably priced souvenirs at the gift shop.
Akuma says we're bad at
At least
retail.
we have a gift shop.
I
Akuma
like
says
your hat. It was made out of grandma.
Oh, what does Akuma say?
we're bad at retail. They don't want to live in any of the places we've sailed.
Alright,
Well, I mean,
guys. You
the
gotta
Spire
sell
and-
the universe that you want them to live in.
Okay,
How are you doing?
I mean,
Okay.
no, I was trying to sell the Spire earlier. Think about it this way: free water, free electricity, free air, free food,
Air.
and you're not eating that bad food. You're eating top quality food from an agriculture world. You're getting some fancy stuff that you wouldn't even see on our Earth. You want that fancy tuna that's from the oceanic world? You got it. In fact, that's not even part of your budget. That's so below your budget that's free. Oh, you know, you got to show some reputation. We'll give you some power armor. We'll give you some training. You'll go murder some civilians, maybe kill a gang, and you'll be fine.
No, you don't get to lose your water privileges in the Spire.
No,
free.
if you're in the Spire, that's free. You don't even have to worry about the Water Guild. In fact, the Water Guild likes you. They want to give you a hug. In fact, while they give you a hug, they gave you bottled water. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately,
All right.
unfortunately, the only thing free in the Judge Dredd universe is the police brutality.
So for
They do.
Coruscant, you have the first 5,100 floors, the top floor. You get to see the sun. The sun's there. It's a really good privilege to have. You get all the sunlight you ever want.
I hate that our benefits are sunlight is free.
Basic shit that most people get anyway.
Oh, and you have air. You don't have to worry about the air. The air quality is semi-good to okay, because you got the machines everywhere pumping out fresh air, taking the carbon out of that. So that's all included in this thing. You will have to have a job. Nothing's free in this area. But the chances of you getting stabbed and killed are really low, because you have the Republic / Galactic Empire / Old Republic, with all their guards and police force constantly moving around. So it's like living in a large city here. You have access, and the cool thing is since you're living in the hub, you have access to every type of food source known to the universe or known to the galaxy. And guess what? You have the pick of the world. You have every type of species in the galaxy. So you don't even have to date a boring human. You can go after the blue chick, the red chick, the yellow chick, whatever chick you want to go with.
Or the
Honestly,
Chick
chicken.
with 3 boobs.
Honestly, you do have me beat on that. Your choice is human or human.
See, I got some. You don't get the free stuff, but you get different types of choices of who you get to marry.
Yeah,
And
it's
imagine-
human or human. If you choose the Xenos, that's heresy.
And you die,
Yeah.
or get
Alright.
turned to bread.
Or both.
And
Or
in
both.
that case, you've crossed the line. But if you find a Xenos, I'm even more surprised you found one that high.
I mean, maybe the Tau, because what's the worst the Tau will ever do to invade someone?
They'll apologize and then die to the humans.
Yeah. So Kuma says,
Now,
so far the benefits I'm hearing for both sides is, hey, you get basic human rights.
Not in
Okay,
Dredge,
wait.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
The worst
yeah.
part about the Judge Dredd universe is I can't even say you'd rather live in Detroit because Detroit's a nuclear wasteland.
All right. Hold on.
Alright.
Let me try to sell Coruscant here real quick. All right.
I thought I did pretty good.
You did really, really, really well, but I'm gonna sell the uppest levels.
All right.
So not only do you go ahead and get the free, wonderful, fantastic sunshine and air that you were going ahead and promised from every other place, mostly, but you can go ahead and rub elbows with the movers and shakers of the entire galaxy. You'll have ambassadors on one side, you'll have government officials on the left. Who knows who you're gonna go ahead and find in the wonderful Planet City. Flying cars are just the start as well, for you can go ahead and eventually, most likely if you're living in the upper areas, get your own spaceship. The galaxy is the limit, and hey, when you're done exploring, you can always go ahead and come back to your apartment and or manor and have your servants waiting on you hand and foot the entire time.
Because you get a robot slave.
Well, not to mention droids are definitely an option, and therefore you don't even have to pay your workforce. Just make sure they're sufficiently charged, and don't abuse them to the point where one of them suddenly turns into an HK out of nowhere.
So, Kuma, which one you picking?
Don't pick Dredd. Like I said, only free thing in Dredd is, the fucking bullet that the judge is going to shoot you with.
I mean, that's kind of cool. It is free.
It is free.
Free on your tax dollars. Some poor asshole.
Because some dude is working.
Oh, I'm sure,
Or asking the 10% just like, God damn it, guys, stop.
I'm sure they'll bill your family.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
They also
That's the
took,
thing.
they took
They
a
bill your
dollar from my
family. It's a
$1.10 pay.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Even if they bill your family, you're still it's being paid for by the 10% of the population that's working.
So, John said, fuck all these places, I'm going to Mongo.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I choose Kashyyyk.
Kashyyyk is a beautiful planet, I'll give you that
It
one.
was really
Okay, no,
sad.
no.
I've tried everything to give him permissions to speak, and it for some reason it's just not letting him. I'm just like I don't know what to do at this point for him.
Okay,
I really want to hear his opinion.
I will argue against Kashyyyk in one point. If you even remotely try to leave those treetop cities, you will die.
That's why you just learn to be a badass.
Hello?
Oh, there, I gave you mods.
He
God
speaks!
damn it! It finally worked.
Alright.
Anyway, that's all we have for you, folks.
Okay. If y'all would have had a camera on me for the last half hour, you would have seen me going through every program I know on this laptop to try to figure out what the fuck's wrong.
Okay, yeah, it's the Mod Squad one I had to give him.
Alright, that's fine.
Whatever.
All right. And everybody stops talking. Hello?
No, we're here.
Hello, you're
So-
there.
Okay. I was like, damn it.
I was
everybody
just, I
else
was
is
just
muted.
waiting in anticipation to see what you were gonna say.
Fine.
Yeah, I was too.
All right, so we're talking about the Warhammer 40k, Judge Dredd, and Star Wars universes as to where you would prefer to live at and everything like that. Is that kind of what's going on here?
Oh no, where you do not want to live at. The
Well,
worst place to live.
originally it was do not, and then it became do.
Okay,
if you had to
so
pick.
the reasons. Here's the thing: the Judge Dredd universe. There is one bonus to living in it. One bonus, and that is if you are actually a judge and you don't run into Dredd.
But but at that point you're a clone who's expendable, and you're going into
No. It depends. Are we talking comic book Dredd or are we talking movie Dredd? Because if we're Sly Stallone, that program got stopped. No, just kidding. No, the big thing with the Judge Dredd comics is, and with everything else is there's one unifying thing here. What is the science fiction authors or authors in this case trying to get across? Star Wars is the only hopeful one out of the whole bunch.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. It also is the least developed out of the bunch. And I know you're going to say, well, Disney, but here's the thing. Star Wars was originally meant to be only a movie script. It was never meant
I
to
agree with
be
you on that.
Yeah, so Coruscant actually is basically, it's every big city in the universe in one place.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
But
said that
even
earlier.
then,
It
it's
was
still
not
like,
done.
there's death sticks. Death sticks are a problem on Coruscant. Really, that's the only bad thing you see other than like assassins and things blowing up.
Yeah, no, well,
Just goes-
that's
yeah.
so that's what I had to go. I had to go
compared to
with.
the other,
I've read
compared to the other two, it's very much laid back compared to everything else.
Well, so what I had to do is I had to kind of, because again, I said this in the beginning, like Coruscant is not well flushed out. I mean, there's no city in Star Wars that's well flushed out. So what they specifically said is well, one second, well,
The capital
Tatooine
of
is.
Naboo and the Gungan city are the only two that are really fleshed out because it's the only ones that you see in more than 2 or 3 movies,
You know,
besides Tatooine.
Yeah,
Mos Eisley is not even a city. Mos Eisley is a town.
that has a spaceport. But
And a hut.
I mean, Cloud City's probably your best bet for an actual this is cool. But
so
you
what
fall to your death
Cloud
into the
City
gas
would be-
core.
so what
yeah,
they
no, I was about to say, Cloud City would be nice if they didn't have to constantly keep raising up the cities to just like get away from the toxic gas.
So actually, if we're talking Cloud City, ironically, I know there is a sky, where is it? Sky Hives, which is Vesmir 2 and I can never pronounce
Oh
this.
god, I haven't thought of Vesmir in ages.
Skitalis,
Mhm.
are both known as Sky Hives.
there ain't
Um,
that shit in Dredge. Sorry, you're stuck on the ground.
Yeah. And here's the other thing about the mutants. The reason why the mutants are shot on sight is actually for a good reason. If they were to breed with the populace, then there would be more mutants, and then they wouldn't be able to be as controlled as much because they're physically more potent than even the clone judges are.
So they're built different.
Yeah. Like that's the one thing that is one of the few things the Stallone movie got right is they are hard to kill in a one-on-one fight.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Here's the thing about that movie. I get why Judge Dredd fans hate it. I understand. It's got Rob Schneider in it. Of course they're gonna hate it. But it has an endearing quality to it because you feel like if you think about it, out of the 3, it would have been much better if Arnold would have been Judge Dredd. Hear me out. Because the 3 people at the time that were like the pinnacle of like toxic masculinity, 80s, action movie man, you got Stallone. Stallone's like the biggest meathead in the whole bunch. But the fact that he's like, I am the law and everything like that actually works because for so many years on like a metaphysical level and stuff like that, you get a guy who has always been like, I am the person everybody listens to, everybody should follow me kind of thing. And he ends up being everything in his whole life turned upside down and turned around. And you finally are like, oh my gosh, it's the only movie where Stallone kind of becomes a liberal. It's amazing. Just because, and it's a Judge Dredd movie where liberals don't exist anymore. And I just went off on a tangent.
Yeah, you're fine. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think we kind of got everything we particularly want.
I'm still going to Mongo.
I know. I don't blame you on that.
And one of these times we'll bring up Mongo as a place to go to for like another universe where you'd want to stay at, because I got stuff on that.
Well, I mean, that's what we could do, not next weekend, but the week after that, to kind of break it up. We could go like, where is the most desired place to actually go to? Kind of flip.
I don't
flip
know
the
if
script.
Mongo's desired to, but I'm like, yes.
Honestly,
Oh, yeah, bro.
Alderaan and the Old Republic might act.
I love Alderaan, especially right before episode 4. It's the best place ever. They lost my luggage, so I can't leave the planet until what's the big green light?
I was about okay, so Discord didn't pick me up all the way because I was muttering a little bit, but I was just like, Alderaan in like Old Republic era would be actually kind of nice.
Yeah, you got a few hundred years before, boom.
Yeah,
Maybe a
see?
few hundred to maybe a few
Oh
thousand.
look, it's Jeremy Sisto. I need to get off this planet now.
Goodbye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who'd you say was the princess?
Jimmy
now?
Smits.
Princess Leia? Oh
Jimmy
yeah, no, we need
Smits,
to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Like honestly, if we were gonna go by besides Coruscant,
I would have so many.
the best place to be at is the Naboo city, because Naboo's just a nice planet, which makes us all wonder how the fuck Emperor Palpatine became a Sith if he grew up on Naboo.
Oh, because
Oh,
he was
the books-
psychopathic from the beginning.
Yeah, he was a
and
psychopath.
his parents
from
were
the beginning.
dicks.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, he was literally a psycho.
so
from the
it's
beginning.
white guy privilege. Okay, that's all it is. I knew there was something in Star Wars that made
Kinda.
sense.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was born like, I'm going to be an asshole and a killer, and that's kind of what he decided to be.
Well, at least he achieved. Well, at least he achieved his goals.
Yeah, he did that very well. He was an asshole and he was a fucking killer.
Here's the thing I often wonder about screenwriters who create things like Star Wars or Aliens or something like that, and they see stuff happening in real life that's kind of similar to what they've been writing about, and he's like, who knew my Emperor Palpatine would be an idiot real estate agent?
Oh my god, now I'm just imagining Emperor Palpatine as a realtor. Like the whole voice and everything. Just
So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a golden toilet seat here, and everything's going to have my name on it, but you'll be the one renting it. It'll be fabulous. And by the way, don't mind the smell. That's just the Jersey Shore. Welcome to Atlantic City. Good. Let the rent flow through you. Good. Hashtag all landlords are dicks.
Akuma is correct. No one, not everybody should follow their dreams.
I mean, I have plenty of dreams I have not followed for the good of mankind, and y'all should appreciate that more often than you should think.
At last,
I am a
finally-
supervillain just waiting to happen. Just somebody give me superpowers, and it's gonna be like, oh, John's such a nice guy. Yeah. You think so?
So apparently, I believe Akuma said that they want to live in the Star Wars universe over Warhammer. I think going on killing sprees kind of swayed them away from the Spire.
Oh man,
Here's the thing: you can still go on killing sprees in the Star Wars universe. They just have to be younglings.
Younglings. I just for some reason imagine Anakin with a fucking youngling just running around killing younglings.
No, he's just chugging younglings. He's just felt like, I used to be an important. They wouldn't give me the rank of master, but they
He
let
doesn't
me
even
sit
have
on the council because they're a bunch of dicks.
He doesn't even have his lightsaber. He just has a shotgun.
shotgun in one hand and a white claw in the other.
No, you guys want to hear the stupidest thing ever? Is the reason why Mace Windu told Anakin to not go there was not because he didn't trust them, was because if it turned out to be true, Mace Windu was going to actually campaign for Anakin becoming a master on the spot when he got back.
Lamar.
Oh, yeah. No,
Oh, stupid!
he should have told Anakin that. would have saved him. It would
Wait,
have saved him from coming back in
wait.
the.
You mean
in the-
you mean retroactively writing this man's origin story causes plot holes and twists and inconveniences that shouldn't happen just
Hey,
because
now.
people
Hey,
don't
now.
fucking
Hey, now.
talk?
Hey now.
Wait,
We're
you're
not going to
saying
talk about the fact that the plot
communication?
needed to make Yoda super fucking dumb.
Okay,
in
let's
order to
begin
make
by
this shit
starting
work.
this off. We're talking about Star Wars for the plot.
You're talking about communication between male characters in Star Wars universe? Come on, we can't have that.
No, I'm
Imagine
talking
this-
about actually having.
Let's just be thankful that in like the late 70s, early 80s, George Lucas at least knew how to make things sound somewhat human.
Though I'm not going to say
No.
anything
See,
about the 40K universe. The father could have told his sons at least, 10% of his plan for the universe, and the Horus Heresy could have been prevented completely.
The father could also
see-
say, "I love you and I'm proud of you."
He could have said at least
done that
that.
too, yeah.
I mean, that could be said for all of these universes.
But
Whoever
look,
Anakin's
not for
dad
Judge-
was.
Not for
yeah.
Judge Dredd.
Yeah,
no,
it could.
No amount of
Yeah,
"I
it
love
could've.
you" would have stopped a
Yeah, it
couple of-
did. Dude. Especially if we go with the really bad Stallone movie. I'm gonna make somebody really mad, and it's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah, he could have said
I
"I love
am
you,"
your
but still
daddy.
shot the guy.
Hey, if Rob Schneider would have hugged Sylvester Stallone a little bit more in the recycle bot, I think we would have had a whole turnaround in that film. And why are you guys picking up the laser guns? What's going on here? Oh, a cigarette and a Tombstone pizza? What's going? Ah!
Yeah, simple communications does change so much, and it's
Which I find it to
yeah.
be funny that
There was
most
a
of the
lot of
sci-fi
product
writers
placement in that
are
movie, right?
like people with dad issues.
Well,
if Anakin had told
Like,
Yoda
there was a
instead of
lot of product placement in the Judge Dredd movie, wasn't there?
Yeah.
No, actually, there wasn't. You're thinking of Demolition Man.
Okay.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Taco Bell winning the franchise wars, which is honestly the most realistic thing any sci-fi movie from like the 80s and 90s actually predicted, because I would expect McDonald's to throw down at this point.
Oh, Taco Bell's got it down. They got pre-measured scoops. It takes them like 5 seconds to make a taco.
Wait, you're saying that to make a good sci-fi movie, I just need to have daddy issues? I'm fucking set.
No. To make a good money-making sci-fi thing, you have to have daddy issues. Now, if you want to
I'm
make
set.
a cult, you have to have mommy and women issues, because then you become L. Ron Hubbard.
Dang it.
I got some
Foiled
mom
again.
issues too.
Foiled again.
I just have issues with both my parents. It's fine. I could make a
Versus
cult and a
tinfoiled
sci-fi
again.
movie.
Well, so like,
Lord,
Well, I guess
here's
instead
the
of
funniest thing to
writing
me.
a psych. Go ahead. Sorry.
My favorite thing that everybody keeps forgetting about, because science fiction is constantly influenced by itself. It's kind of like it's an Ouroboros. You got to remember, George Lucas wrote this lovely thing called Star Wars, not based off of just Flash Gordon, but as a fan fiction between Flash Gordon and Akira Kurosawa movie. This guy is a nerd.
We also have to remember all of this originates from Dune.
So you're blaming Frank Herbert for George Lucas? No, never.
No, everything sci-fi comes from Dune.
No, it doesn't.
Like everything fantasy comes from Tolkien.
No. Everything fantasy or science fiction wise comes from Dune, a little bit of H.P. Lovecraft, and a smidgen of Frank L. Baum from The Wizard of Oz, because building civilization and cultures was really started by him.
Looks at Warhammer and thinks a little bit of Lovecraft. Anywho,
Yeah, no, I mean, realistically, like the whole AI thing, in the 40K universe was all inspired by Dune.
oh no, I gotcha. But back to
I'm
the
just
back to
sitting
the
here- I'm
topic
just
at
sitting
hand a
here
little bit.
thinking, I could make a cult classic sci-fi movie because I have both mommy issues and daddy issues.
Oh, classic, aha.
Yeah, see?
See, I thought you said like Coke classic. I'm like, no, you're not in the 80s.
Anywho,
Not too bad, but that was my father's choice.
No.
Yes.
I
Now
think- I
it's what you're
think
saying
we
is your
should,
new Coke? Oh.
I think we should start setting up what we're going to be talking about next time. Manager, any ideas?
Oh
Next
yeah, no,
time.
we already got that one. So I'll go ahead and rein this back in. So we got this one done. I'll be working on this in about 2 weeks from now. We're going to be starting to post all of our stuff this week, well, since I can get Spotify and um, the
Everything
podcast
else.
back and everything back up. So we're going to start this week. Tempest will be dropping. Rimuru and Mr. Destructive Eyes will be dropping this week. Next week will be what we discussed last week. For some odd reason, I'm drawing a blank. Power Rangers versus
Thundercat.
Thundercats. And then the following week after that, we'll be dropping this one. So, give a little recap. Middle to high areas are, we got Judge Dredd is the worst, followed by Warhammer, followed by Star Wars, which will be the good place to live. The lower cities, both Warhammer and Star Wars suck. You're not having a great time. Warhammer beats out Star Wars just a little bit based off of how concentrated the hive cities in Warhammer is versus the hive cities in Star Wars are usually planet size, so they're much more spread out. Again, I go back to Emperor Palpatine and quite a few other places literally hid functioning fucking Star Destroyers in the city and was able to literally lift up and destroy half the parts of the city and leave. That's how much space they damn well had to work with. And then the first floor is a tie between Star Wars and Warhammer. You die on this floor. There is no living on this floor.
Yeah.
At
The
all.
only reason Lower City Judge Dredd is better is because you at least know you'll die soon.
Yeah, this one is you're going to die a very slow, agonizing death or get ripped apart by some monster.
Here's some random monster that is not even described except in random hunting logs of I barely survived.
So, as far as what we could do next week, since everybody seems to be wanting to talk about this in our private chat, I figured why not actually have some fun with this and bring it into the next weekend, which is the Speedster. And I think what we're going to do to make it easier is we're going to have a Toon Speedster and then we're going to have a normal Speedster. And Toon Speedster, I mean they have the Toon Force, which is going to be a very long discussion in and of itself because it's fucking Toon Force, and then an outside non-Toon Force speedster, which
We'll
might
likely be going off of feats and all that.
we'll
So
be
you're
going off
talking
of feats and stuff.
you're talking like Speedy Gonzalez versus the Flash or something.
So for the Toon Force would be like Speedy Gonzalez versus Sonic versus Bugs Bunny versus stuff like that. And then outside of the Toon Force would be like Flash versus Quicksilver versus
A-Train, etc.
A-Train,
all that
stuff
kind
like
of
that.
stuff.
Because again,
So-
if you take if you take the Speed Force out of, or not the Speed Force out of it, if you take the Toon Force out of it, then it's a little bit more even. Reason why we had to separate the two is because Sonic Toon Force is fucking stupid.
Well, he's basically Goku when he gets
Yeah.
the Chaos Emerald, so it's really like.
Well, even like I was looking up, even in his cartoon, like when he was a cartoon, like the narrator was narrating, and within a sentence, like a simple sentence, Sonic apparently ran from Earth to the near planet to ran back. I mean, like you can't fucking win against a guy.
You can. You just
The
gotta go
Flash gets-
fast.
Yeah.
The Flash gets pretty ridiculous too. He was able to cross like half of the known universe in less than a Planck second, which is
No, all he really has to do is like vibrate to like a radio frequency, and he'll like go to a Earth that is based off of the music that's played on that universe.
But like I said, we'll get into that next week, as I don't want to ruin all the fun then. But that's what I'm kind of thinking we'll do next week, because again, it started bringing up a lot
throwing
of
me into a
discussion.
cartoon physics discussion. You do realize there will be a dissertation and a doctorate written about this, right? I will make your eyes bleed.
I'm still keeping my entry for the non-tune speedster,
All right, which one was that
Who's
one?
that?
Dark Schneider.
he is pretty fast. Yeah,
All right.
See, someone knew it,
You
Roderick.
wait! You bastard!
Bastard is a really good. I love.
Oh no,
that
I love
series.
Bastard. I'm just saying that is just a good segue there. Dark Schneider, you bastard!
It's such a stupid show, but I love it.
Hey! There's nothing stupid about. Yeah, there is. I'm sorry, I got confused. There's nothing not stupid about
Also,
Bastard.
And that's what makes it
High
perfect.
Tangent Manager. if
Mhm.
you ever want someone to, possibly have a good fight against Ainz, or not Anos Voldegold, since he beat Rimuru's ass in our fight. We could always have him go up against Dark Schneider.
Yeah. So, for Akuma, here's what we're thinking so far. It sounds like it's probably going to be Flash, because obviously Flash is going to be in there. So it's going to be probably Flash, Quicksilver, um, and who else do we want to put in there who can actually keep up with the Flash in the non-tune area? Um,
You've got probably A-Train from the boys.
okay, so we
Maybe.
got A Train. Let me type this.
There's actually, here's the thing. I've got somebody better than Quicksilver.
All right.
Because Quicksilver, I think, actually can only run 88 miles an hour.
Silver
Yeah.
Surfer.
No, actually, it's a guy from who's technically a parody of the Flash, but it's Marvel's version of a parody of the Flash. You remember oh gosh, what's his name? Hang on, let me find him.
Well, the Silver Surfer would not be a bad idea.
Silver
he's pretty
Surfer.
fast.
Well, the Silver Surfer goes faster than the speed of light just by thinking about it. 1 second here. There he is. Give me 1 second here. He's in the Squadron Supreme. Is who the guy I'm thinking of? Where's he at? That'll work.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'll be doing my own research on Dark Schneider.
His name's Speed Demon.
All right.
And Speed Demon is basically, if I'm not mistaken, he's faster than Quicksilver. I just have to check something real quick. Because here's the thing: as much as I enjoy Quicksilver from the movies, Quicksilver is really not fast in the actual comics. Yeah, he is. He does have one thing that would actually be cool, but I just want to make sure his power.
His scenes from the movies were awesome, though. Like,
Yeah, the
Oh, God,
movies
yeah.
make him faster than he is in
All
the
right.
thing.
So
It's just, let's see.
I have.
Okay, so he can run the speed of light because. Okay. All right, so that was. Sorry, I was thinking of when he got introduced.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, he can run faster than the speed of light, so technically he can keep up with the Flash. But we also have another, guy that can do the same thing.
Oh yeah, we'll get a lineup. Don't you worry.
Oh
So
yeah, no,
the-
I'm just.
The lineup that I have right now is Flash, A Train, Speed Demon, and then for the Toon Force, it's going to be Sonic, Speedy, Gonzalez, and Roadrunner. And we'll obviously kind of change those a little bit. I personally think we're going to have to find someone that can go about as fast as Sonic, because I know Sonic is kind of broken.
yeah.
But like I
Let's
said, it
see
gets into the actual
here.
Toon Force of some of
I'll
the
get
other
you some
shit.
cosmic dudes who can do that. Galactus being a really fun one.
Galactus, as fast as Archie Sonic.
Quite nearly.
Has he had a meal?
Fully satiated.
A Hancock would be kind of cool too.
Let's see.
Hancock's pretty fast.
Hang on. How fast can Sonic the Hedgehog run?
You're just going to get him in 50.
186,000 miles per second. So technically, he can run at 767 miles per hour.
Miles per what?
Well, that's just base Sonic. That's not including Archie Sonic.
Oh no! I'm just saying that is the speed we're looking at.
Yeah, so
for-
we'll
for-
do some
for
research
Toon
on
stuff.
the Toon Force, but I think the main lineup right now is going to be Flash, A Train, and Speed Demon. And then Hancock, we'll throw in Hancock as well and kind of see where we can go.
Hancock.
I'll figure
Okay.
out, are we doing Barry Allen?
Wally West. Okay.
No.
West.
You've got to do Barry Allen.
Barry Allen.
If
Well,
you're gonna pick a Flash, you're gonna have to do Barry Allen because Barry Allen has done the most stuff with the Speed Force, so he'd be the one that would be the one
Your
that.
go-to, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Barry Allen was the one who outraced instant teleportation.
And Wally West is actually slower than Barry Allen
Okay.
when he's the Flash, the full Flash, because of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Excuse me while I drink an entire bottle of Jack Daniels before I go into a discussion. Okay.
But we will save the discussions for next
Yeah.
time. Because
Do
I
you-
Yeah,
want to
if
get
I'm
meantime-
available. If not, I will send notes.
So wait, what should our sign off be? Because this is being recorded.
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of building this stuff up as we go along.
While I'm
I added that, Fingar.
while I have you here, Luna, did you see the pictures I sent?
Which ones?
Wait,
Uh,
can you already customize in Wilds?
so people are able to play even earlier because they have a PlayStation.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
no, I saw that.
So
Let's sign off first and then we'll talk about that.
okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Yeah. Anyway.
Bye.
y'all.
We're going to go
Hope
ahead
y'all
and
have a
cut it.
wonderful, fantastic, absolutely amazing night. Bye.
Bye. See you next Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Woo!